Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And my God, it's been a long build up to this, but after two movies, we're finally to The Dark Knight Rises. Folks, we're commemorating the 10-year anniversary of The Dark Knight, the kind of the iconic one of the bunch, but I feel like all of the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight movies, maybe Rises being the third best, to put it lightly, but all of them definitely have their moments, and they've kind of stood on their own as sort of like a cinematic masterclass of superhero storytelling. So, Dragon, we're here to break down The Dark Knight Rises, and let's just get this out of the way so it's not an elephant in the room. We've been talking about The Dark Knight Rises for years, more off the air than on the air, but Dragon, you and I have had this debate about this movie for a long time. Like, there's just as a thesis statement for this movie, folks, because I was hyped about this movie, much like everyone was. And the stuff I was hyped for, I still very much appreciate. The Bane stuff. The Bane stuff is what I was hyped for. The Bane stuff absolutely delivered. However, I feel like it's pretty much everything else around the Bane stuff in this movie that kind of comes crumbling down. And so I'm not a big fan of this movie. I have a vivid memory of walking out of the movie theater with my best friend at the time and just saying, Mark, I don't want this to happen, but I'm walking out of this movie and I'm disappointed. And so, Dragon, it's not to say it's a bad movie. There's certainly a lot of parts of this movie I love. Like I said, basically everything with Bane is a home run. Every single solitary scene that Bane's in is a home run. But again, it's kind of like one of those things, like the age-old debate about The Dark Knight being that Heath Ledger kind of elevates that movie. And I feel like you and I, through analyzing Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight in our second commentary, we definitely came to the point where it's not just Ledger. Ledger is definitely a key component to that. He's a key player in all that, but it's really everything else about the movie. The movie itself is pretty flawless. Dark Knight Rises, it's elevated by one great villain and one awesome performance, and I love the conceit of Bane. I love the hoity-toity British accent. I love the intimidating mask. I basically fell in love with the Bane design from day one, from the first time I saw it. I was like, oh my God, that's intimidating as hell. Like you can't get more intimidating than that for a Christopher Nolan Batman villain, and I love how gritty it looks. I love how realistic it looks. So I was hyped. I was hyped out the moon for this movie, and it let me down. So, Dragon, I'm very curious. What were your experiences with The Dark Knight Rises? Because fire rises.
God.
A little bit of Bane, but I got it in
there. All right. So my. Sorry. All right. So my. You feel in charge. You feel you are in charge. Of course. Okay, so no, all seriousness. So my, Dark Knight Rises was my first midnight screening. I'd never done one before, so I went in there. I was very hyped. I got to be honest, it was very much like a battle plan going in there to the midnight screening. Like, it was like we had a lot of chaos that night, like a legion of like basically a lot of people with me. It was like kind of. It's like, okay, move, people. We got, because we were kind of switching theaters, and it was a whole crazy thing. But we got in there, and it did not go as planned at all. But we were in there, and we were just happy to be there. And I was very hyped from the get go for the movie. Obviously, of course, it was that kind of that spell, like, what's he gonna do next? What's Christopher Nolan gonna do next? And the thing I will always hype up is trailer 3 of The Dark Knight Rises. Quite simply. Is one of the best trailers I've ever seen to a movie. I love trailer 3 of Dark Knight Rises so much. They use the Fire Rises track, which unfortunately is not in the movie, but I don't know. It's still a great piece of marketing, music, and score. And I love it. But I love so many things about that track. I can go on, but keep it simple. My thesis, I've been kind of building through all the commentaries here. I want to kind of get this out here. So, reanalyzing The Dark Knight Rises for the umpteenth time, I've kind of noticed with looking at the trilogy as we've been.
Think of my movie, Dragon.
All right, kind of bordering on senior, junior from Kim Possible with that. Now, all right. What was I getting? Oh yes. So yeah, my view on the trilogy is you have Batman Begins, as I've said, is like a Nolan movie on Batman. It's Christopher Nolan, psychological. It's a masterclass of filmmaking by Christopher Nolan on the enduring character that is Batman. It's Batman Begins. Dark Knight is a Batman movie, first and foremost, that is directed by one of Hollywood's finest, Christopher Nolan. And here's where we get to Dark Knight Rises. I feel Dark Knight Rises is, and again, folks, follow me on this. I might track off here, but hopefully lands with some people. The Dark Knight Rises, to me, I've found is Nolan directing a Nolan Batman. Now, what I mean by that is that he's Nolan is directing the expectation.
That's literally one of the most redundant things you've ever said, Dragon.
Very
Nolan
true.
is directing a Nolan Batman. I'm like, yes, and
What I'm trying to nail, what I'm trying to get across here is that he's basically somewhat directing a parody of himself with this movie. Is that he is directing the expectation of what we have deemed with the past two Batman movies, especially The Dark Knight, as to be a Christopher Nolan Batman. He has to kind of recapture that and basically direct. It's not just.
I gotcha. So he's kind of directing within a blueprint.
That's what I'm saying. That's we have.
You see, directing within a blueprint would have been a better way to say that, Dragon. He's Nolan doing Nolan.
Well, and I've been kind of building the whole Nolan track. I mean, this advice would have been nice when we were doing Batman Begins, but okay, let's take it. It's kind of Nolan directing a Nolan blueprint.
All right. I'm sorry. I don't mean to harp on it so much. My bad.
Right. So on the whole, again, my side of the argument here is I think the movie gets a lot of uncalled for hate, and the movie in retrospect it's in an impossible position, but it does feel like, as I said, it's kind of Nolan directing a parody of his work in a very kind of fascinating way, because
and the reason is because I'm sorry, you're gonna get to it. Go ahead.
Yes, he's kind of doing a parody of his own work here because we told him to. Essentially, it's like, hey, Top Dark.
Yeah, and he's very resentful of. I mean, I shouldn't say very resentful, but it's like, Dragon. It's no secret that Nolan took some convincing to do this movie.
Yes. Well, we'll definitely get into that with some backstory, but yes, he did take some convincing. But yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, top The Dark Knight and Batman Begins and the trilogy. Do all of that. It's like poking Nolan with a directing stick. Hey, direct it. Do it. and it's kind of Nolan pushing what he established from Batman Begins. It's Nolan pushing the Nolan grounded cinematic reality to the max. Like, again, doing a comic book movie. Again, with the Joker, as we established, Joker was kind of the push of like how we would define a supervillain in today's modern society. Like, we'd be called like a terrorist because we don't have the word for supervillain in Nolan's version of Batman. And we're kind of taking a lot of very comic book Batman stories and we're kind of melding them together, but more so than we did with The Dark Knight, because that was kind of a natural adaptation of really grounded Batman stories. Now we're taking these kind of bigger than life ones and we're kind of pushing it. We're trying to ground it. We're just pushing it to the max. So I guess on the whole, I feel it's a solid movie. I feel overall, though, it's Nolan's first kind of human moment as a director. I feel it's something gets lost in the scuffle. It's kind of Nolan's first, like, God can bleed type moment as a director.
So I'm glad that you agree with me on that, because that, like, really, I kind of exaggerate my hate for this movie, Dragon. I don't hate this movie at all. And honestly, I should be glad that the things that worked for me about this movie were simply the things that I really wanted to work for me. You know what I mean? The Bane stuff in particular. I feel like that, like, we as fanboys should look at that and, like, be like, we got what we were promised, and what we were promised was an awesome bad guy, and that's what all the marketing was led into. Of course, a bad guy that doesn't necessarily top Heath Ledger's Joker, but by the same standpoint, Dragon, I feel like Bane is almost as good of a job as you can get to comparing to doing a basically a follow-up to performance to Heath Ledger's Joker. It's almost perfect in that regard if you're going to do a follow-up to Heath Ledger's Joker.
Sure. And again, the thing gets lost in the shuffle, I suppose, that, again, it's kind of Nolan's first human moment as a director. He made a film that it's kind of like the rest of them. But it's pretty darn good all the same, though. It's a solid movie, but like most movies,
it's got the epic production values. Like, every time I watch this movie, I'm amazed by the bat and the fact that that's actually a practical effect.
Absolutely, man. There's a lot to love about the movie, and we'll get into it as we go through the movie, like kind of the points of conversation. So, Before we get there, though, a little background. So let me.
It's written out in the speech by James Gordon.
Funny. Very funny.
Well, okay, you know what? Now I'm veering into Heimlich from A Bug's Life.
That's what I'm saying. You're kind of jumping a little with Bane here.
James Gordon has the candy corn.
Look at me. I'm a cute little bumblebee who's going to break Batman's back.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Anyway.
Wow. Thanks for that, Dragon. I appreciate that.
So, anyway, aside from just now there's going to be fan art of people putting Bane mask over Heimlich, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's good. I want that. Please do that.
All right, okay, in all seriousness, though. So, here's the background, folks. Here's how we get Dark Knight Rises. So, obviously, Nolan had a lot of trepidation over a third film. He kind of did a swan song with The Dark Knight. He really had, again, he was kind of flying by the seat of his pants. I'm going to do the impossible, make the best Batman movie I left people to imagine with Batman Begins, and he achieved that. It's like, okay, I can go home happy. Me and Joe agreeing to Coke and a smile moment for me. Hooray! With Hollywood. I threw him, I gave him the jersey, and now I'm off. I'm walking into the sunset. Nope. So here's the thing. There was no contractual pressure on Nolan, but you get a sense there was absolutely an expectation that, again, like fans, like reams and reams of fans and studio executives was like, hey, Chris, listen, take all the time you need, make whatever movie, like do all the inceptions you want, by all means, just, come back for Batman. Just do that for us, would you? It's kind of like the soft expectation. That's a lot of pressure, though. By the same token, it's like no force, but it's like, if you don't do it, people are going to ride you for the rest of your career. Like, why didn't you do another Batman movie? So Nolan did a lot of soul searching, kind of thinking, around the time he finished up Inception, like kind of while he was working through Inception. Like I believe he was kind of doing it on the side while he was doing Inception. I believe that's how it went, kind of formulating what he was going to do with Batman. He basically he kind of landed on, okay, got to treat the film as a third act. Because like, what can I do if I'm doing Batman again? What can I do to make it special and kind of make it story relevant? Well, okay, I lucked into having a 3-act structure of an arc with Bruce Wayne, where he did Batman Begins, the starting of the Crusade, kind of the low of lows with Dark Knight, with kind of the tragedy of his soul, and now I can bring it to an end. And that's kind of the main reason he came back. If I can come back, the only thing I can do, because if he did another Dark Knight, essentially, I imagine Nolan would be like, I'm going to be stuck doing these movies forever, like James Bond. I mean, that's so perverse. My success, it's like I'm going to keep doing these until I die, and I won't be able to make the other movies I want. So I'm going to end it. I'm going to do something no one else has ever done with Batman. I'm going to end it. Darn it! So the first thing he figured out was an ending. His brother and David Goyer in tow, they figured out an ending first. That was the first thing they figured out in the whole movie. Then they're kind of basically unfolds. They work backwards from that. So okay,
have this fantasy of a cafe and you and me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So he's working on the.
I'm getting this from a loving place because Kevin Smith does a very great reenactment of the scene, and that's where I'm kind of drawing from.
He does, and that's a great podcast, by the way, folks.
Cafe, a little cafe. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so they work backwards from kind of figuring out the ending. Like, what else can go in the movie? So the theme of pain. So of course you have fear, you have chaos, and now you have pain as your theme in the trilogy here. So Nolan really wanted to tell kind of like a disaster movie, kind of like a war movie. Basically the no man's land side of everything. That's really a movie that he wanted to kind of tell. So he worked that in there. So again, working backwards, he's getting to that and getting thematically what the whole thing's going to be about in terms of getting to the villain. The studio wanted, after the success of Inception, the studio wanted DiCaprio as the Riddler, from what I hear.
You know what? I've always wanted Michael Emerson as the Riddler, but...
But Nolan wanted to go in a different direction. He wanted a physical threat. So, of course, David Goyer being kind of since the beginning of Batman Begins, David Goyer, is always kind of like his go-to guy in the continuity of Batman. Like, okay, who can we go to? And David Goyer points him to Bane. Initially, Nolan's like, oh my God, the villain from Batman Robin? No, thank you.
Bomb!
But after being shown a little bit of Bane here, again, not being entrenched in the lore of Bane, but just kind of seeing what this character actually looks like and what he's intended to be, essentially, so, okay, we need a physical threat. He liked what Bane represented as, again, kind of this physical force for Batman to go up against the man who broke the bat, all of that, and, of course, the paralleling dark origin of Bruce Wayne, them having kind of like some really deep-seated dark kind of a place of origin, kind of these two characters compelled against each other. So that was the stuff that was really drawing Nolan's eye to Bane. That's why he settled on Bane. Jonathan Nolan, his beloved brother here, good old Jonathan Nolan, he pitched Catwoman. Because his logic was essentially, if you're gonna put an end to Batman's history, you have to work in Catwoman. She, along with the Joker, were the first Batman villains. You have to work her in there in the grand history of Batman. That was a hard sell on Nolan because Nolan's not really one for romance. I'm not saying he's against it. I'm just saying he's not. It's kind of a.
Here's the thing with Catwoman, Dragon. I feel like she is done really well. She's executed really well. Anne Hathaway does a good performance. I like her. I like her style. I like her look. She fits in. I just don't think her story has any traction, and I think you can kind of feel Nolan's disinterest with her in that regard. Like, she's done as well as a Nolan version of Catwoman can be. It's just as we kind of talked about, like one of our big sticking points with the Dark Knight is kind of like the House of Cards effect, kind of the domino effect where, if one domino falls, all the other dominoes fall, like that. But that sort of deal where it's just kind of a perfect movie in that regard where, with the Dark Knight Rises, it just kind of comes apart at the seams a lot of the time, especially with Selena. Not especially with Selena, but Selena's a good example in terms of we got a good idea, but do we really have a narrative thread for it?
Right. Well, we'll get into that once we begin things. But my point is, Nolan had to ground her and then kind of approach it from the Selena Kyle side of things before kind of like, we put a girl in a cat suit, kind of before that angle of it all there. So like, let's understand the character of Selena Kyle and kind of work from there. So they finished the story in 2010. They shoot in Pittsburgh because they literally shot every inch of Chicago. So we cannot go back to Chicago again because we've done all of that. We got to go to Pittsburgh, which is very copious and has a lot of great landmarks to utilize in Pittsburgh, of course. This film, again, Nolan has like an arc of IMAX in his film careers, and the man who pioneered IMAX in filmmaking practically. And the man was dying to make a film completely in IMAX, but the problem is you can't do that quite yet because at least at this juncture, I think still to this day, but definitely at this juncture, because the IMAX cameras, for those who may not be aware, the IMAX cameras are very loud, as in you can't do dialogue scenes without re-recording the dialogue over those scenes, and Nolan hates
that's the problem. I mean, it would work really well with a movie like this, where all the dialogue is like, "Where is he? The fire rises," but not for a lot of other movies. It's like, could you imagine trying to tell like a very cinematic, like dialogue heavy piece?
Right. So, of course, he did manage 72 minutes of IMAX, though. That's pretty impressive, though. So, again, it's like less kind of sequences of IMAX. It's pretty much kind of as much as you can get, as much as he could squeeze in the movie, he put it in there. 72 minutes of IMAX in this film. Of course, the loss of Heath Ledger was very hard on Christopher Nolan. Therefore, out of respect for Heath Ledger, he's kind of weighing his options, like how should I approach the lack of Joker, going forward in Batman. So he just decided, not to mention him at all out of respect. Like, let's not try to cheapen it. Let's not say, hey, the Joker. Remember, like your love for the Joker in the other movie. Let's squeeze him in there. Like, no, it's not really Joker's not really in this story. So, tribute to Heath Ledger is no Joker at all in this film. Mm-hmm. And of course, the viral marketing campaign, much like the other films, is very good. Like kind of these campaigns of like uncovering images of Bane and like kind of like this finding maps that tie into kind of the prologue. A lot of fun stuff there. Of course, the prologue scene being attached, I believe, to Mission Impossible 4, I'm pretty sure. And of course, unfortunately, there was kind of a sad occurrence with the Aurora shooting, which of course will unfold, and that's just quite tragic. I'm saying, again, I
mean, we could literally do a whole podcast just about that. So I feel like we could even hold off on that.
Absolutely. So the point is, I mean, that was also kind of that was the sad beat, but it did brought out some triumph and such. Like I remember Christian Bale visiting hospitals. It was very, very inspiring, nice stuff. Again, living up to the Batman ideal in real life to kind of cushion the falls of real victims of crime. I thought that was really nice. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that said, that's our background. So Tiki, hit him with the lethal weapon of it all, because we're going into commentary mode. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so folks, using whatever program you have to meet, whatever means to watch this, go ahead and sync it to timestamp 000. I'm going to count up to 3 and then say go. And then when I say go, we're all going to press play. Does that make sense, Dragon?
Yes.
All right. So here we go, folks. The Dark Knight Rises in 1, 2, 3, go. All right. I love how the march, the Bane march, is right at the top of the movie. You know, right at the top. It's uh we get this great kind of every movie starts with the villain, of course,
Well,
with barring Begins, but Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, we get this theme, we get this kind of cold open with the villain theme, you know what I mean?
sure. Well, real quick, the thing we always have traditionally is we always have like a little foreshadow with the bat symbol. Where first movie was bats for the big kind of swarming bat shot. We have fire, which of course is permeates Dark Knight. And in this case, we have cracking. The bat symbol is breaking slash kind of cracking ice. Of course, we have the ice cracking later on, and we have the Batman's cowl breaking in the movie. So we'll have kind of the cracking bat symbol. And as this is happening,
symbolism, Dragon.
And speaking of that symbolism, of course, as this happens, we kind of link up with the ending of The Dark Knight, where Jim Gordon's giving the speech about Harvey Dent, which of course he's really talking about Batman, how he was his friend, and of course he basically that he knew Harvey Dent. Basically, they're doing all of this to preserve the legacy and the memory of Harvey Dent. So we're kind of establishing kind of where we left things in The Dark Knight real quick before seeing what new evil's afoot.
Oh boy, Dragon, this appeared on YouTube. This leaked on YouTube.
I remember it quite well. It was a very coveted footage.
I watched it religiously, and I was hyped about it.
I love how this is staged as an action sequence so much. I just love everything about the staging of this. But talking about the prologue itself, here's the prologue.
I feel like this is better than the bank heist. I'm just gonna go out and say it. It's better than the bank heist.
I mean, here's the thing. As a one-off scene, I think it's better, but I still think I like the bank heist is just a lot of fun. I like heist, and I love Nolan directing heist, so I think I like it a little bit more because of that. But still, as a cut, like you can just like look at the sequence by itself, it does hold up better. I'll say that much. So all of this is shot practically, by the way. All of this, all the stuff they actually use the CIA plane, and the other plane that kind of overtakes the CIA plane is a C-130. So all of this shot actually in the sky, folks. Like none of this plane stuff is digital. I want to make that clear. Not one thing is digital in any of this opening here. So this was a clever build to Bane, kind of Bond-like almost.
Oh, it really is. It really is. And I remember the first time I watched the footage, I was just like guessing. Like, I was like, okay, one of these guys is Bane, one of the guys under the hood, but which one? Which one, Dragon? Is that one Bane? Is that one Bane right there? Is he Bane?
So this is a fun little tradition. I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world that we always have like a villain as the henchman reveal, because we had it with Joker in the bank during the Dark Knight, and of course with Ra's al Ghul.
Hey Dragon, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna rehearse every Bane line in the whole movie.
Well, I mean, if you feel you're up to it, sure.
Well, not every Bane line, but I mean every iconic Bane line. So basically, well, maybe he's wondering why you would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane.
They re-recorded a lot of these Bane lines, mainly
extremely painful for you.
Sorry.
I love that. That's one of my favorites. Of course. Dragon, me and my friends memed the hell out of course. We quoted the hell out of course.
Bane, possibly even more so than Heath Ledger, probably most quotable of any of the Nolan villains. So,
here's the thing. I feel like Heath Ledger is like the literary icon, right? And ironically enough, Bane's a stand-up comedian. Isn't that funny how it works out?
Yeah, it is kind of. Well, it's kind of perverse when you think about it, but I didn't really.
Like the very literary, like we're gonna write about him in history books kind of performance, and Bane is just memes, but it's so fun.
So just again, this sequence is so well staged with the action, all these beats here, and they actually use skydivers for kind of our men on the outside. They're actually walking on the wings of the plane here, and again, these planes they're flying over each other. And don't get me wrong, you have some inserts and you have some gimbals, but I mean all practical, folks. That's what I'm talking about. Like they did previs on this so they could figure out every little action beat, because that plane is actually on wires with the other plane below it. I kid you not. So as I
So
mentioned, after the initial test screenings, they kind of dubbed over Bane's voice, which again during the basically
okay,
it's the
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because I personally prefer not being able to clearly understand him. And in the finished movie, though I have gotten used to it, I've definitely gotten used to it. But in the finished movie, I was like, man, that's some obvious ADR.
yeah, but I don't mind the obvious ADR because it adds like a big booming voice quality to Bane, which kind of makes him more terrifying. It's like he overtakes the room with his voice, which is kind of neat.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
I mean, both. I see your point though. I mean, I like that's another way to go with it. I like
You
that we
know, it
kind of.
almost gives him like a Vader like quality, though.
That's what I'm
You know,
saying.
like kind of like a disconnect between his mouth and his voice.
Speaking of the voice does have a bit of a Latin influence, which is classic Bane. You know, kind of.
Dude, the voice is just like, let's talk about like outside of the meme, all right? Outside of the meme, the voice was a brilliant decision. Just a stroke of genius.
Tom Hardy took this movie again after working with Christopher Nolan on Inception. Is kind of the legacy of like, oh my God, Nolan said I want to work with this guy.
Hold on, hold
Basically,
on, hold on. Sorry, I want to admire this scene. The fire rises. And then, of course, Dragon coming up is one of the most terrifying moments with Bane ever. Oh my god, I can't think of
now's
a better
not the time for
introduction.
now's not the time for fear, Doctor. That comes later.
It's later.
But yes, so
Right there,
Tom.
Dragon. Right there. It's just like, wow. Just yes, yes. Give me more, please.
Scary thing is this plane, the CIA plane that they used, like the real one they used before, was deconstructed. It was actually it crashed the following year in real life. Like that plane was in use and it crashed the following year.
Oh wow.
All right.
Okay,
So
what do you think of Harvey Dent Day, Dragon? It's a little on the nose for me. Like, I appreciate the holiday. I don't know. Like, it's a little weird for me as a comic book fan. So, what do you think?
well, I mean, I gotta tell you, if it was, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Long Halloween. Of course, if it was like the holiday killer was actually a thing in this universe, it would have made even more sense. But regardless, no, just the whole, I the Harvey Dent Days, that's an excuse to kind of get everybody around. I mean, we have so many other like little niche holidays. Why not? So I'm
Sure,
not
sure.
bothered by it. But real quick, I just want to backtrack on Bane here for a moment here because
Okay.
Tom Hardy he took the role because basically Nolan said, okay, you have full control over this role. You have to wear a mask though, and Tom Hardy's like, I get to do all of this stuff you're promising me, figure out the character stunt teams and everything, and all I have to do is wear a mask. I'm in. He's very
And Dragon,
enthusiastic.
unfortunately, this started the long-standing tradition where it's like, let's see, Dark Knight Rises, Mad Max Fury Road, freaking
Venom,
Venom, yes, of course, and Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
Uh, Tom Hardy just loves having shit on his face.
Yeah.
Just all like not the actual shit, but just various, various kinds of shit on it. Mostly metal. Mostly
All right.
metal.
So real quick, let's talk about.
I'm
So of
sorry,
course,
I'm getting off. Go ahead.
anyway, so we have the Dark. There's definitely a Dark Knight Returns influence with the 8 years later of it all there. So of course, Dark Knight Returns in the comics is like 10 years later, and we're kind of working with that here and giving us the Dent Act. So I think the Dent Act is kind of a polarizing thing with this movie. I felt the Dent Act is like it was an interesting. It's like a rare Batman idea. What if again we can only explore with this Batman that we established in the Dark Knight of like, hey, if Batman's hoping for a day when he won't have to be Batman anymore, let's give that to him and see what we can do with the character. It's kind of that old thing in storytelling we really like of let's give that character what they want. Let's see what they do in response to that. So
Uh-huh.
Batman's mission.
I've never had a problem with the Dent Act, to tell you the truth.
That's fair.
I mean, I think it does make a lot of sense. Like, and honestly, it's just easy screenwriting. It's easy storytelling. You know what I mean? It's very clean.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. But
okay, I love the Bruce Wayne. The shot
yeah,
of Bruce Wayne with the blue.
it's great.
All right. Anyways,
So I like
I'm
that.
sorry, folks. We're doing our level best to make this conversational, but I keep messing up because I'm fanboying about this movie a little bit, Dragon. I
Yep.
got to admit. I got to admit. Go ahead though. Go ahead. Dragon, honestly, like you have a lot to say. I'll be back in just a second, okay? I need to go grab something, all right? So
All
just
right.
carry on. All right.
So again, I love the idea that kind of Batman's mission is complete, and then post Two Face. We've destroyed the Gordon family, and both are somewhat broken men. Both Bruce Wayne, for reasons we'll definitely explore in the movie again, because he's mission basically Batman is without purpose. He's kind of lingering around where his chance of Bruce Wayne is basically all traces of like living as Bruce Wayne again. It's just kind of like left him. And Jim Gordon's family's been destroyed. I like that there's an aftermath and they're signified over Harvey Dent is still kind of the umbrella like what caused all this. So I like that Dent is still kind of somewhat in the movie with that. Here we have, of course, a reference, a proof that Nolan watched Batman the Animated Series, because we have John Daggett, who is, of course, a reference to Roland Daggett, played by the wonderful Ed Asner in Batman the Animated Series, here played by Ben Mendelsohn. So a little fun fact, Christopher Nolan has always, he's flirted with the idea of directing a Howard Hughes biopic, hence the whole peeing in the mason jars joke, which, of course, Batman v Superman took literally, unfortunately. So I feel that was a lot of forced exposition. I feel the John Daggett here, the big problem with John Daggett is that he's so expositional in this movie. It's like almost every scene is him like expositing like plot.
Yeah.
It gets ridiculous later on with Catwoman. We'll get there.
All right.
So let's see. So the great Anne Hathaway. We got to talk about Anne Hathaway a little bit here. So Anne Hathaway, she auditioned. This is mind blowing. I don't know if you know where this. When Anne Hathaway auditioned for Catwoman, no one knew that they were auditioning for Selena Kyle. They were auditioning. They arrived at an audition for Harley Quinn.
Really?
So that's what she came to audition for Harley Quinn. That was mind blowing. Like, oh my god! Like basically, when people show up, they're like told, okay, you're auditioning for Catwoman, because like all the clandestine secrecy of a Nolan movie.
Wait, so it was basically kind of like Nolan pulling a one over?
Yeah. So basically,
twist within an audition process.
Essentially, yes.
That's kind of genius.
And it's so funny. She actually got the news that she got the job the same day she got the news that she got the Oscars.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Okay.
A good day for Anne Hathaway. And I really like Anne Hathaway as an actress, by the way. I see her in a lot of good movies. She's good. I like her. And again, for my money, the best cinematic Catwoman we've gotten. I know there's not a lot of competition there, but still, I think she honors that character really well. I like it.
Pfeiffer.
What?
Pfeiffer.
No. This is we'll agree to disagree. I like to me, this is the best cinematic.
Yeah, you see, I have a soft spot for Pfeiffer. I grew up on Pfeiffer. My parents loved Pfeiffer, so I gotta stick with my parents on this one, Dragon. It's family loyalty.
Which is
my family really has a soft spot for Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman.
This is what I love about what Anne Hathaway did with this role here, is because I heard that she studied the early history of Catwoman, like the old Bob Kane, Bill Finger days of the comics, like she didn't look at any of the films, she didn't look at any of like the Michelle Pfeiffers or the Julie Newmar. She just looked at the early comics and she basically did research into them, and she found that Bob Kane, when he was drawing Catwoman, he basically was influenced visually by Hedy Lamarr, and basically that's kind of how she plays, like Hedy Lamarr. And yes, Tiki, it's the very same Hedy Lamarr that Phil from Hey Arnold loves so much. It's the same one. That's essentially what she plays in this movie. Basically, the classic femme fatale and noir detective pieces. That's Hedy Lamarr for you.
So kind of like the American Peggy Carter in a way.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so what do you think of Bruce Wayne's gross depression beard?
Well, come on, let's not just pull everything from that. I don't mind it. I don't care. We show these unkempt. It's in the future, and of course, Bruce Wayne did have facial hair in Dark Knight Returns. So,
yeah, but to me, I'm just like, shave. You'd feel so much better. It's not like it bothers me because it's that he doesn't style it, Dragon. Like Bruce Wayne would look good with a styled beard, but no, it's just like it's a gross depression beard, as Honest Trailers points out. All right, so what do you think of Blake, Dragon? What do you think of Blake?
So we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a movie here, and I like that, and I like
after this movie, honestly. Like
he's done Well, he's done a few movies. He's done a few movies. He did that Christmas movie with Anthony Mackie that was kind of fun. Anyway, so John Blake, I again, of course, there will be spoilers here. So again, I bought into Nolan's lies on the press circuit, where it's like, no, there's no Robin.
I hate the Robin shit, and I don't even look at him as Robin. I look at him as his own character.
That's the thing. I bought into him as a character before I bought into. Again, I didn't see the Robin thing coming at all. Is my point. I liked him as a character, and just again, it's not that he's going to become Robin. The fact that he's like an homage to Robin. I like that they kept it like
become the next Batman, Dragon.
I know that's the
character.
That's the point. That's what
like screw the Robin thing. We kind of tiptoe around the Robin issue.
Sure. So I'd like to. By the way, I just want to mention this. So the whole. So I love that Jim Gordon still goes to the rooftop, to kind of think and kind of like mull things over. And I like to think that as Blake's bringing up the fact that Batman hasn't been seen for years. My little headcanon has always been that the year leading up to like when the Dent Act was passed, and maybe a little bit afterwards, like that first year or so, I like to think that Batman made unofficial appearances before he completely faded into retirement, and Jim Gordon probably wrote off as like the Batman imposters from the beginning of Dark Knight. That's my little headcanon on it, by the way.
Anyway. Well, I don't know, Dragon. It just bothers a lot of people, me included, that the ending of the Dark Knight is possibly the last time that he ever went out as Batman, and basically we've seen all of Batman's exploits on camera. And,
well, again, I don't know. I think there's still some
doing nothing with his life. Dragon, I know it's for character and storytelling purposes, but it's just like it's depressing, man. It's just like this is not where we want to see the character end up.
I gotta tell you though,
the end of the Dark Knight was a low of low, yes, but it was triumphant. It was triumphant at the same time. It was like it's always darkest before the dawn. And Dragon, I wanted to see that struggle. I wanted to see that chase. And we didn't get any of that.
When we do get some of that chase in the movie, we do get some of that chase, and I mean, yeah, again, I'd still argue. Look, again, with headcanon aside, again, like I'd like to think that again that year leading up to the thing, he was still on the run. We're seeing another glimpse of him on the run in this movie because again, you know what it's going to be like. Again, he's going to be on the run, which is not entirely the reason behind the retirement. Again, what I like thematically with the retirement, I like what we do character wise with the retirement. That again, as we explore Batman Begins and the Dark Knight. Bruce Wayne he's lost everything, as in like there's no life to come back to now. There's no point of Batman anymore, and that's why he's depressed. It's the fact that I got what I wanted. Now I have nothing to do with myself. Batman, there's no need. A Batman who's focused on just honoring the mission of his parents versus the whole like perpetual endless war on crime. It's like, well, Gotham's not really corrupt anymore. I solved that problem, and the Joker took everything away from me. So I mean, there's no coming back from it now. And this whole film is kind of Bruce Wayne rising from the darkness and that proverbial well that he's in. And it's him kind of finding the will to live as Bruce Wayne again. It's kind of, if you look...
I get that, Dragon. I totally get it. I'm just saying it's not very fun to watch. That's all I'm trying to say.
I mean, it makes it so much more rewarding when he does come back. And again, I think just by that ending, it makes it like all the more, again, it's the darkness coming before the dawn. The dawn is glorious when it comes.
I have a lot of problems with the way the Batman stuff is structured in this movie, so we'll save that. We'll save that, sir.
Let me say this with it. I do like that. I like that we do work in some great themes from Dark Knight Returns into the Rises stuff in this first act here. Like the whole Bruce Wayne, essentially, he's the whole not, this wouldn't be a good death. It's like not a good, this would be a good death, but not good enough. Kind of the big iconic moment from Dark Knight Returns. That's kind of what he's living through as a character right now. Again, he lost that side of himself and the mission that defined him. So, yeah, that's the thing. He's got nothing left in the tank.
Yeah, I hear you.
I do think it was a mistake. You're kind of falling a little behind here, folks. Let me just kind of say this is important.
Seriously.
Yeah, I think it was a mistake to show Alfred's little like his dream for Bruce Wayne,
because it's such an obvious foreshadowing, Dragon. It's a little bit too obvious.
Like we can keep that scene, just don't show it. Like it's perfect with him. Like I'm fine with him saying it. I just don't want to see it because him seeing it spells it. That's the thing. Like us seeing it spells it out too much.
It'd be like us seeing the Burma scene.
It is that's what I'm saying exactly. It's the Burma effect. Like Burma did it so well without seeing Burma, we could have done that again.
Right.
I think it's a lovely dream that Alfred has for Bruce. I do love the idea behind all of that, though. The fact
I do too, Dragon. I feel like it's a shame because, for me, the reason why that scene doesn't work is because it's just an obvious foreshadow. It's like he's spelling it out too much. He's like, and to the point where it's like, okay, if we don't see this by the end of the movie, then something's going to be wrong on a narrative and storytelling and screenwriting level. Anyways.
So, by the way, with this, the congressman here, I want to mention this congressman because I learned that the reason Foley's so stupid in this movie was because there was like a deleted thing. There was a thing they were supposed to shoot, where the congressman was going to like basically promise Foley Gordon's job, which is why Foley's like making a lot. Matthew Modine's character Foley, which is why he was so gun ho about like, let's forget the robbers, let's go after the Batman, because again he's just trying to get Gordon's job. So I bring that up because the congressman. I don't know what she did to this guy. I don't know why he's just like after a few days. I guess he's become like a drunk stumblebum. I don't know what happened there.
Oh.
So by the way, the guy that Bern Gorman's character, Shriver here, Mr. Shriver, this guy, he's a really great actor. People don't seriously. This guy plays an excellent villain in a show that more people need to check out called Forever. And he plays like kind of one of the great antagonists, one of the great villain performances is him in that show. And also, many people remember him in a more comedic sense in Pacific Rim, if anyone has seen that movie, that Guillermo del Toro film. So I like that Nolan approached Catwoman from the Selena Kyle side of things, and that's the right tactic.
Builds Catwoman from the ground up. It's like we get to see her from the very, very street side of things, all the way to her playing with, with Batman, and just kind of really getting into the thick of things, and the iconic Batman and Catwoman teaming up stuff that we love from the comics. You know what I mean? It's a great kind of gradual Christopher Nolan arc with her.
I mean, I like that we justify the cat motif, like the little things that go along, like the cat ears and the masquerade scene, and of course, like her goggles turn the cat ears. Like we have and she's in a cat suit. That's all we need for the whole cat motif. But we're not going in the obvious ways we've kind of done it before. But it was it was the right tactic to start from Selena Kyle before anything. Of course, right here is what I'm talking about. With like this is Tiki. This is the Selena Kyle that I waited for years to see in a movie. Like we didn't get in Batman Returns here.
Yeah, I love this specifically. Definitely.
But I'm just saying, like Selena Kyle being a master thief and being smarter than like basically being the smartest thief that Batman's ever come across. And I like that we see all that here. And Anne Hathaway, I think, brings that to life so well. Like classic.
That is my favorite Catwoman moment in the whole movie, Dragon. So yeah, we definitely need to highlight it. The whole the hysterical screaming, just kind of faking being the victim. It's great. It's a great moment on her part. It shows how multi-layered she is and how skilled she is.
Again, I can't say enough nice things about what I think she brought to the role with all of that. I really, because again, to me, it's like that's the character I wanted to see realized, and we didn't do her as like a crazy. It's like she's not like she doesn't belong in Arkham. She's a thief that can never be caught. That's what you do with her. So, by the way, a little fun fact about the Robin of it all, and again, we don't need, again, I'm not even, again, because he's a character before Robin's just looking a little Easter egg. It's not even what he is, really. But the point is...
I feel like Robin was like a studio-mandated thing, honestly.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the interesting thing. Christian Bale said if they were going to do Robin in this movie, he wouldn't do the movie. So that's the thing. That they kind of squeezed in that Robin thing, because he's, from the get-go of this movie, said, I'm not coming back for doing Robin. He's very anti-Robin. And they're actually in Dark Knight. They actually flirted with doing a little setting up Robin, because what they were going to do was originally Rachel. Again, they realized no, we don't want to do this because one, it's like again, Nolan doesn't like set up for other movies, but secondly, it's kind of like they kind of like no Robin. Originally, Rachel was going to have like she was going to be related to the Flying Grayson family. At the very they weren't going to be acrobats, but she was going to be related to the Grayson family. That was going to be
yeah. Okay, so what do you think of this early sewer scene with Bane?
So, yeah, this scene's great. I love thematically. I love that we have one of the major things in the movie is buried truth beneath the surface bubbling up, buried evil and buried truth. Of course, the truth of what happened with Harvey Dent, the fact that Gordon's underneath here again with that buried truth of it all, and seeing Bane firsthand about what's going on here. So I love the fact that again we gave Gordon a really important role yet again. Like he's the first guy to see Bane in Gotham. And again, I like that we see kind of a subterranean kind of theme with like the Batcave has like a lot of water and things are rising. And again, like a lot more kind of like there's and he has like the little rising.
To what happens with the with all the tumblers and everything like that.
Like visually, we're connecting a lot of stuff there. With Bane is like building this whole like underground tunnel network. And again,
I do love the foreshadowing to everything, Dragon. I think it all kind of really does tie together quite nicely with Bane.
Yeah. I think that's all. I think it's all great. Again, visually, it's kind of communicating the themes very well. And I think everybody feels it, even if you're not dialed into it. I think you kind of feel that, and I think that's just right. So of course, Bane here is kind of working his circus, and Nolan wanted to do like a circus strongman. That's why there's no Venom, no
Oh,
like
I
kind of
love that. I
traditional.
love that.
Traditionally, Bane uses the drug Venom. No, not the Spider-Man character. He uses this drug called Venom, which is like a super steroid. And Nolan was very much against that, and they kind of wanted to go for like he doesn't want to do like a hulking like steroid infused Bane. He wanted like a natural circus strongman look, and that's kind of what we examined here. And then later on, he's always covered up in the revolutionary gear.
Uh-huh.
And as I was trying to get, so there's one of the inspirations also looks like what Bane kind of eventually looks like here. One of the inspirations for the voice was an Irish boxer by the name of Barton Gorman.
Okay, okay.
And that's kind of what they're basing visuals and kind of Bane's voice off of here. Is just very much kind of like this menacing, kind of casual, like basically kind of this very verbose boxer in a way.
Uh-huh. So what do you think of Gordon just kind of like taking the plunge right there?
I always love that. It's like, yeah, I always love that.
Yeah.
Here's the clever thing. I like that Gordon's playing knocked out while he's kind of getting some information in that scene. Like he's kind of spying. He's like cop instinct. We do get to see a lot of Gordon's cop instincts throughout the movie. Like, of course, one of my favorite bits, clear the corners, rookie. We get to see it there. All that.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, by the way, so with the exception of kind of the big centerpiece bout between Bane and Batman Underground, they do use real tunnels in this movie. By the way, these are all real tunnels, with the exception of like the big arena later on.
Sure, sure.
Oh, that running shot just makes me want to bring up that Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a nickname for what Nolan does to his actors. It's called the Nolan drill. The Nolan drill is getting your actors in peak physical condition. Like he and Anne Hathaway had to deal with it for the movie, because again, he had experience with Inception at this point. Like, okay, when you're in a Nolan movie, you got to get in good shape because Nolan likes to do a lot of takes, and you want to look good in your costume, and you want to be able to do a lot of stunts as much as you can, like that running around like a spinning room like Joseph Gordon-Levitt did. So he's trained and in prime physical condition for all that running and finding Jim Gordon in the sewer moment.
So killer. This Blake calling out Batman scene is very controversial, but I actually like it a lot.
I mean, here's the thing, Tiki. I feel it's a scene it's a well written, it's a well acted, well written scene. But the problem that everybody has with it is the fact that people just taking it at face value. I mean, folks, the very simple intimation to make here is that okay, he's a smart guy. He's a cop who we see become a detective in this movie. So he saw this, and it's like the fanciful thing that he's talking about here. Like, what if Bruce Wayne was Batman? Just he kind of picked up on the signs. Again, his kind of his budding detective picked up on this, and he looked into it, folks. Like, he doesn't say, "Oh, when I looked into it." It's like you can read into that, but people just take it as like, "I saw that look, and I knew you were Batman." So yeah, there's a little bit. Read between the lines a little, folks. That's all I'm saying.
Honestly, Dragon, I feel like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, his performance nails it, and I feel like the writing does really sell it. The whole, the pain that he's hiding. Again, pain is like the big theme of the movie.
Exactly.
So,
and I agree, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, again, it should work at face value, but for some people, they're taking it literally, and they're not just like seeing, okay, well, yes, all of that is true, so he felt that, and that's kind of what he's saying to Bruce Wayne to kind of get him out of his funk. But by the same token, just people, I don't know. Also, there's a little Killer Croc reference in that scene, by the way. So they told me to look for alligators in the sewer. Which, fun fact, Gotham Knight, which is in the Nolan continuity somewhat, did have Killer Croc and the Scarecrow in the sewers of Gotham for a story. So, neat. I mean, after all, if anyone has any qualms like how we found out how everybody's finding, I mean, Coleman Reese found out. I mean, Coleman Reese can do it. This guy can't.
You know what? I feel like that's just kind of like an effect of the Nolan verse. You know what I mean? It's a very simple, like, realistically, people are smart and people are going to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that side of the Nolan verse at all, honestly.
Certainly.
Right.
So I like we're kind of talking up Bane here, and Alfred's kind of informing Bruce about Bane here. I like the mercenary idea with Bane, by the way, because that's the animated series they kind of set up Bane as a mercenary assassin of sorts, and I've always loved that idea with Bane. Like, to me, my perfect version of Bane is Bane. His version of like training around the world is like taking mercenary jobs around the world. So that's what I always like to think of as Bane's kind of formal training before he gets to Gotham. I mean, there's nothing really against that here, but I'm saying in general, it's kind of my rule of thumb with Bane's. Like he trains, he trains as a mercenary, and he wants to make the world like a prison, which again is kind of what you see in some of the great Bane stories. Even here, somewhat you do kind of have like a him trying to make Gotham into a prison like the one he came from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Alfred here, again, this is good news to Alfred. Alfred is happy to get Bruce Wayne back in the world. Again, Alfred is trying to revive Bruce Wayne because, again, the Bruce Wayne side of Batman, again, it's so funny looking at the character of Batman, looking what we've done in the Nolan trilogy here, is because basically this is the link up with what we kind of know to be Batman, where, again, it's Batman putting on the guise of Bruce Wayne, but at this point, it's in that Dark Knight Returns era of like, okay, so there's no point in Bruce Wayne because Bruce Wayne's a recluse now, so I don't have to go out in the world to pretend anymore, and because he tried to be both guys, and that failed because essentially the Bruce Wayne side of himself has been cut off. It's like there's nothing, he's done. And Alfred's just like he's like so hopeful. Like if I can get him out in the world and have him meet a nice girl, if I can like get him like at Wayne Enterprises, like he can save Gotham as Bruce Wayne. He wants to make him into his father. He wants to kind of go the Thomas Wayne route with things. Mm-hmm. So, by the way, speaking of doctors and such, we had the great Thomas Lennon as the Doctor, and yes, folks, that's the same Doctor from Memento, in case you wondered. Thomas Lennon also did the voice of Chief O'Hara in the Return of the Cape Crusaders animated movies.
And of course, this scene was very, very hyped up in the teaser trailer, Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way they did it in the teaser trailer. And honestly, famously, I kind of in the movie, I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming. I feel like it should have come at the low of low moments in the movie. It should have come like at the end of Act 2, like when Batman actually shows back up. And like I understand why it comes here. I just think like the way that they were teasing it felt like a low of lows moment.
All right, a few things. I want to say that I love that visit between Batman and Gordon and him wearing the ski mask and
ski mask. Yes, that was.
I love that it brings it back to when they first met in Batman Begins. I thought that was such a sweet, heartwarming scene to me. Like, oh my God, he's visiting Gordon in the hospital. It's like, I love that so much. And also the girl who's hanging around with Juno Temple's character is inspired by Holly Robinson from Year One. They don't call her Holly Robinson, but for all intents and purposes, that's her. Mm-hmm. Fun fact. So I like that we set up the EMP so well with this scene and later on. So I like that the EMP does not come out of nowhere. I like that we kind of make it a big plot element, and again, we work it into all these different situations.
I mean, it's definitely a classic case of Nolan heightened reality, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, EMP devices do actually
make sense just on a visual level.
I mean, EMPs do exist. It's just a question of like if we can harness them or not. That's the thing we're working out these days. Like how like to weaponize it, or like turn into like a more like a handy gadget, if you will. But EMPs are like a thing that we're toying with now, essentially. Uh-huh. So let me address this a little bit here. Of course, folks, major spoilers. So before Marion Cotillard,
oh boy,
my problem. Here's the thing. So Marion Cotillard.
This is definitely the weakest part of the movie, and I say that coming from a place where I think her performance in Inception was fucking fantastic.
It was. But here's the problem. So I feel Marion Cotillard's in an unfair position here because the way she went about this is that she played what was on the page, and unfortunately for her, what was on the page was a red herring performance. Mm-hmm. And I feel that's unfair to her. And again, because I know here's the thing, she's an excellent casting for Talia al Ghul. I'd stand behind that. I mean, that's not bad casting. And I see what they're going for with it, but they're just, I mean, I feel, I don't want to just rewrite the movie on this, but I feel, she, basically, if she meant what she said in the scenes that she's playing a red herring, if she, like, genuinely meant what she said and she was trying to actually save Gotham, that would have been more in line with Talia al Ghul, who's always, like, looking for the alternative to her father's way of doing things. And I think, like, if she just meant what she said, I would invest in that. I think that would make it more interesting, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the red herring, and of course all the Nolan, like, oh, hey guys, she's totally not Talia al Ghul. Without that, if they would have just come up front like Marion Cotillard as Talia al Ghul, oh no, it's the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, but she's actually kind of a she might be the savior to Wayne Enterprises. Whatever shall happen.
I mean, look, I'm not against the. We'll save more of the reveal talk for. Let's just put a pin in all of that for. More on that later. Of course, a little lovely homage to Batman Returns here with Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle dancing in a masquerade party.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I believe it was trailer 2 where we got the whole, the speech from Selena about there's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne.
Yeah, and they put in the third one too, so it's in both. Yeah. I love that. I love that Selena. One, I love that Catwoman kind of seduced Batman out of retirement. That's a classic Batman idea of kind of Catwoman exploiting the thrill of being a vigilante for him. Of there's a case. It's kind of the Sherlock Holmes, the game's afoot. That's sort of like what it is for Batman. Like, hey, I can. She kind of lures him out of retirement, and again, is a link to both sides. Like she deals with Bruce Wayne, but at the same time, later on, she deals with Batman as separate entities. And she's kind of an anomaly to both personalities, so to both sides of the ego here, where she's kind of interesting to Bruce Wayne and drawing him out back into the world, and to Batman, like she's not scared of Batman. It's muscle in a costume who's just like he's opinionated, he's a symbol, but a symbol I don't really beckon to. Mm-hmm. And what's so great is that this is an education for Bruce Wayne in class crime, a crime of like the basically the class issue in Gotham, that he warded out corruption in Gotham, but he didn't think of the corruption that he himself he and his parents kind of stemmed from, of like the upper class versus the lower class, which she speaks to. And I love that that's kind of like throwing him for a loop of like, no, you thought your job was done, but it's not. It's like a firsthand kind of education. It's kind of nice. So of course here,
Master Wayne, it takes a little time to get back in the slip of things.
I love that line too by Selena. The whole "I'm adaptable." It's a great line. You bring back Storm's coming, as in like she knows that Bane's coming. Like she's not with Bane, but she knows that he's coming.
All right, Dragon. It's like 36 minutes into the movie. I'm just gonna address the issue. It takes way too goddamn long to get to Batman. What do you like? Seriously, I understand that it's a build-up, but I feel like it's too much build-up. I feel like some of this could have been cut. What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, I don't mean just to keep citing it. I mean, I keep a part of me keeps citing Dark Knight Returns because that's what that story is building to. Like the whole first act of that story is like, okay, yes, he's Bruce Wayne returning to Batman. It's a huge moment. So I mean, it is build up. I mean, at this point, I think it's them kind of taking advantage of, okay, it's the third in the trilogy. People know who the guy is. We don't need to keep reminding them every 5 seconds who Batman is. They're going to know it, and we're going to be invested in the side of who this guy is. That's what I like. I don't know. It didn't bother me that much, but I hear the gripe. Like we could have gotten more.
I am definitely on the casual side of things, where I'm like, this is a Batman movie, and I want Batman in a Batman movie.
I mean, it would have been nice, I guess, in retrospect, if we could have seen like more like news footage, like kind of kept like like maybe some scared sightings of like what they thought to be Batman over the years. I don't know, be like a little montage or something might have been nice, maybe. I don't know. So, by the way, I don't know if we didn't mention this during the Dark Knight, I don't think, but you know what's kind of funny? In the whole trilogy, Lucius Fox only had one scene with Batman.
Yeah, I remember that.
He only had one scene with Batman, and here at this point, this is the first time he's ever just kind of dropped the ceremony of it all, and he just says basically when he's introducing the Bat here. And by the way, I love that Lucius Fox is like eager to show Bruce Wayne the new gadgets. I love he's like, well, let me show him to you anyway. He's been waiting 8 years, like, okay, new gadgets. I've been waiting to show him this. So the Bat, it shows like it has a long, uninteresting name, but let's just call it the Bat. Which, of course, like, yeah, you're Batman. I know. Let's not dance around. It's been 8 years. I'm darn tired of waiting. So the Bat itself violated the Nolan rule of the cinematic reality of like it's going a little big. It's kind of fun that we kind of built it up with the whole like, what are you building for him next? A rocket ship?
No. Hold on. Hold the phone.
What?
The Bat is fine. This shit is ridiculous.
The brace bothers you, really?
It's ridiculous.
All right, so the brace specifically is from Dark Knight Returns. So I mean, we saw it's like he has.
It doesn't bother me that it's like a factor. What bothers me is that he goes right from like, okay, he's able to kick in stone and brick and stuff now. I'm just like, like he's in peak physical. Like there should be some sort of a transition there, Dragon.
Well, we see that transition as in he loses the big fight, Tiki. What more do you want?
All right, fair enough.
So I mean, so again, the idea of the brace, it's it's a great shot. It was like an arm brace in the comic, and in Kingdom Come, which is a very interesting idea because in Kingdom Come, which they borrow from in two spots in this movie, Kingdom Come was a story. It was like a what if Elseworld story. It's a really well known story where um, it is right after the Bane story. It was a question of like if Batman never recovered, he have to wear like an exoskeleton. So that's kind of where they get the enhanced strength idea with the arm brace. So it's kind of a little kind of mixture of those two ideas. Kind of a little neat thing there. More on the bat later. We'll circle back to that. So what we have here, I like that we're linking Ra's and Bane together. And the idea of linking these two characters together, which I really appreciated, was
too extreme for Ra's al Ghul is not to be trifled with.
So as you're watching the movie here at this point, like they're blending the comics lore of Bane and Ra's al Ghul very well here. Because one, we get Bane's origin straight for the most part of this movie. We get Bane's origin like right out of the thing, and that, of course, that's a really great story in itself. The boy who was born into a prison to live out his father's prison sentence. It's a great story, and we do get to see that. And also the idea of like kind of Ra's and Bane working together. In this case, possibly being the heir of Ra's al Ghul, and it's the whole. It borrows from a story called Legacy, where Bane met Ra's al Ghul, and Ra's wanted Bane to be the heir because Batman turned him down so many times. Well, okay, you've proven yourself. Why don't you be my heir next? And Bane was secretly working against Ra's. It was like kind of a real interesting kind of like you've earned my daughter's hand in marriage type story. It was really interesting. So I think
so the stock market scene.
Yeah, of course, get a little coin reference to Two-Face in the stock market scene.
To me, this was the point in the movie where I'm like, what's going on here?
So we're actually in Wall Street, New York. The actual New York Stock Exchange, Wall Street. So of course we're definitely flirting with a little bit of like kind of Occupy Wall Street before Occupy Wall Street really got up on the ground. Again, basically we're flirting with the class issue. Basically the whole like the upper class versus the lower class, kind of the Wall Street guys, yuppies versus kind of our what began in Batman Begins, kind of your desperation of criminals and desperation of kind of the people in the lower who've been kind of shafted by life.
Mm-hmm.
And Bane here again. This is it's not a bad plan here. Bane has a really I like when we have these heist in Nolan movies where basically it's a really well executed plan here. Like they have this plan, they have an escape route planned with the hostages, and like they're armed on the motorcycles and everything with hostages as they're making their way through. Essentially, he's used the fingerprints that Selina Kyle had lifted from Bruce Wayne's safe. The fingerprints that she gave the Shriver are being used to authenticate the stock exchange. Basically, a lot of bad deals that will kind of get Bruce Wayne thrown out of his company so Daggett can absorb the company.
Gotcha.
So that's what all this is for, by the way. Just to give Daggett. They need Daggett to be. Specifically, they need an in for Wayne Enterprise. They need to get Bruce Wayne desperate, so they want to get their hands on the clean energy project, which initially they think they can do through Daggett, but when they find out that's a no-go, they make him desperate as him. Okay, so thankfully Miranda Tate, who we know now, is their in. That's how they know where the clean energy project is and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it all worked out wonders. Initially, this thing bugged the crap out of me when I was watching the movie, though. Here's the thing. And I finally got an answer to this, but I never had looked for an answer.
Truck?
No, not the cement truck. What bothers me is this scene would go from day and night really fast.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Now, here's the thing. I don't know if this is like done retroactively to fix this or not, but here's what happens. So, they go to the stock exchange, and they do all their stuff here, and time has passed, I'm sure, but we go from like daytime, probably the afternoon, to pitch black darkness. And initially, the sequence was longer, and there was like a longer shooting schedule. Then they trimmed it for time, and that's why that it's so jarring. But I don't know if they went back and kind of you noticed like the street lights go on. So I don't know if that's them trying the best they can to like say, okay, it's getting darker out, and maybe a little bit of time passes. So I don't know if that's Nolan like trying to account for that, or if that's just a happy accident. Like, well, the street lights were coming on, then of course just pitch black night. We had more stuff, we had to cut it.
Time to go mobile.
Oh, a DC Courier Services, kind of like a little DC Comics nod on the back of Bane's left there. I love it. I love the thank you, by the way. It says thank you. And basically, we have what I like to call Foley's folly here, where again, like he's about soon he's going to give up the pursuit of again the armed stock, the guys who like siege the stock market and have gotten away with hostages, people we should be focused on saving with like, hey, let's pursue the Batman. Or I gotta tell you the weakest performance in the entire film, though, and I feel bad for this, Matthew Modine. He's so good on Stranger Things, yet he's just he just gets such a. It's like the only time I think in the Nolan trilogy we gotten such an obvious character. It's like the guy's like there's nothing original about this guy. He's just like generic. Like I hate. Basically, he's a lazy J. Jonah Jameson cop.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Now let's go to some good cops here because this is a great shout out here.
These guys are great. Yeah.
Okay, so these guys are great, and they are an absolute pull from Dark Knight Returns. We have the two cops to see Batman when he returns. That's all from the Dark Knight Returns. And here's my little fun thing. I love this. I completely forgot about this rewatching it. The young cop, the young beat cop, who's on the other side of the car there. That's Will Estes. He's my favorite character in Blue Bloods, a cop show. So I was like, I didn't catch it. But it was way before I started watching Blue Bloods and Dark Knight. When I saw Dark Knight Rises, and I had all the rewatches, I never picked up on the fact that, oh my god, he's literally a beat cop in that show. So delightful. And he had like a memorable, he shot, he was the overeager one. It's like, oh god, it's like, yeah, it's perfect. So this is the cool thing.
I will admit, it is a damn good intro to Batman when we do get him.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's well learned. And the EMP thing makes for a grand entrance with Batman. And his weapons design is kind of based on some stuff from Dark Knight Returns. Again, they're pulling from Returns as much as they can without being an adaptation. I like that. Like aesthetically, it feels like Returns, and as much as they can do it. Of course, he's back on the Bat, which is pretty much where we left. Again, we're kind of thematically, this is where we left off in Dark Knight. Now we're kind of picking up with it here. So seeing with the kind of climate that he had lived in, now he's back, and now this is kind of like something that did not help him come out of retirement. That, well, you're hated now, so Batman's going to be pursued.
Right.
Of course, I like that. I like how we kind of interlay kind of these two, and I buy the relationship between Selina and Batman here, where we see kind of like two of them kind of in each other's lives here. Like she's saying, "Oh, he's back. What do you know?" I don't know. Yeah, nice. I love Jim Gordon's smile coming up when we have one of these cutaway shots here. Where he's like in the hospital room, and he's like, yeah, it's like he doesn't say anything. It's like, yay, he's returned. Like I won. Yeah.
Right.
It felt so bad
for. Just in general, can I just address the kind of the visual of them strapped to the backs of the motorcycles? It's just one of those things that's a little ridiculous.
I don't know. It's kind of neat. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like in love with it or anything, but it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like a good, like, okay, hostages, save them.
No, I get it. It's just like, I don't know, just the fact that they're strapped to the backs, like.
Well, they're kind of a smokescreen. So even if they get shot, they can't shoot them from the back if there's a hostage, and even if they drop off, they don't really care. It's like, okay, well, I wonder if Bane was just going to kill the hostages anyway when they got wherever they were going. He probably would have. Now, of course, here's the unfortunate side of what Batman's done here. Is again, he has kind of with stupid cops like Foley, he's diverted the pursuit of Bane, which is not good. Unfortunate.
Okay, here's
also,
the file you were talking about, right?
Yeah, right there. It's coming up right, yeah. I love that we use the Batman Begins chase music towards the end of this here. And I love this shot right here where basically he takes this guy down. He uses the bat pod to trip him. And then like this, he just appears from off screen. That's great. So basically at this point here, basically when he's surrounded, that's when we cue the Batman Begins. Again, we're alluding to, we're going full circle with it here with the Batman Begins chase of the Tumbler. The way he pulls his escape here.
Right.
So my point is here is like I love that the consequences of Dark Knight, again, him being pursued like this because of that lie, because the price of the Harvey Dent lie, the consequence of his sacrifice is what leads to Bane's victory at the end of the day. So I like that we do suffer consequences of the Dent Act in our story in a big way, because again, Bane succeeds because because Batman wasn't able to catch him here. because again, this is in part kind of a vanity thing that Batman. Again, there's an argument to be made like if Batman's doing this out of vanity because Alfred calls him on. It's like you did again. You're basically pulling your Batman Begins shenanigans again, like leading cops on a chase and everything through half of Gotham. Like what are you thinking? Like you need to save Gotham from Bane as Bruce Wayne. You only do it as Batman. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I
that's
like
the
that there's.
practical thing about it. I like that we address that. It's one of those things where it's like this is an exciting action scene and it's a cool return for Batman and everything and it's a great build up. But you're right, Alfred is kind of the perennial figure who's just going to be like, "What are you doing, man? Like what kind of sense does that make?"
And again, I really like how that facilitates into that grand idea. I like that we worked into the plot that I really never put together as kind of doing this rewatch, Tiki, is that I love that again, Batman's doing this. If you're questioning the reasons why he's doing this, again, that character love, he's looking for a good death. He doesn't care what happens to him at this point. Just like he's gonna save the even if it kills him, he's looking for that good death.
Uh-huh.
Because again, like he doesn't, he's miserable being Batman. I mean, basically, sorry, let me rephrase that. He's basically he's miserable, and the only thing that gives him any purpose is again he's doing the mission. He's doing the mission without a point anymore. So again, like not saving Gotham and doing any of this. He's just trying to get away and just kind of beat up like the next bad guy in a long line of like the next bad guys. And again, I wonder if some of that is Nolan just kind of factoring. Well, I would have just been doing this over and over again until, which is why we're kind of ending it here. Maybe I don't know. So of course, I like that we kind of justified heels for a character here with literal stiletto heels, which is kind of funny, like stiletto blade heels.
Right, right. I like that.
A cute gag. So I mean, this to me is like really, again, this is really cool. I mean, she looks great in the costume, and we got away with the Julie. Basically, we Nolan legitimizes '60s Batman so well in this movie because we get the Julie Newmar costume essentially with the cat ears and the mask, just like early Catwoman or like the move or the '66 movie, and we of course we homage the '66 movie in a big way later on. I gotta tell you, not my favorite Ben Mendelsohn performance. I won't lie. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's not
You know,
great.
like a little weaselly guy. Like of all the act, he's maybe not his best acting choice. I don't know. I don't want to be harsh on him, but
Uh-huh.
he's been better in other roles, in my opinion. So of course now Batman needs to figure out what's what transaction at the stock market has been made, and the only person who might have an idea to be the person who stole his fingerprints, which is why he's seeking out Catwoman right now. And speaking of Catwoman, what do you think? This seems one time with Dag, it's pissing me off here. Like, why do you have to explain the clean slate is? We already alluded to it like 2 seconds ago. Like the clean slate, the tool for the master thief. Like that explains it. You don't need any more than that. What are you doing,
Right.
Dag?
I mean, it's one of those things where, like I was alluding to earlier, I feel like the Catwoman stuff on an iconography point of view, it's very good. I just feel like the plot itself is a little sloppy and a little bit all over the place. But what they do with her is good. Scene to scene, it's very good. On paper, it works. But little details like that, kind of go a long way for me.
I mean, that's
But
fair. Her and
to get away from my nitpicking though, this is a great fight scene.
Oh god, I've been waiting years for this here, just seeing Batman and Catwoman fighting on a rooftop together. And of course, this moment here is like I was like, as a Batman fan, I was so happy. Like, why can't Affleck Batman learn from this? Like, no guns, no killing.
Right.
Like, take as I've said, Batman v Superman. I'm crying on the inside as a Batman fan when he's driving through cars, killing people. And this is like no guns, no killing. He runs off a rooftop with Catwoman to make an escape. That's my Batman. Yeah. Course here again we're building up kind of Batman versus Bane here. Not really. Is this in a car? Of course, like the big. We're kind of setting them up here. So let me talk about the Bat real quick here. So the Bat violated Nolan's rule of the cinematic reality. There was his solution to this was okay. We're going to do the Bat. We need kind of like an air vehicle here. So he wanted like a militaristic logic that it looks like it could have spun off from the Tumbler.
I've never had a problem with the Bat, honestly, in terms of reality.
Well, yeah, sure. Honestly, I always thought they were going to go with the Bat boat before they were going to go with the Bat wing, or kind of the flying kind of bat vehicle. Honestly, I always thought they were going to go that route. I'm surprised they. I was really surprised they did when I saw the bat in the trailer. It's 90% practical, by the way. This thing, Tiki, aside from when he's maneuvering from missiles later on, maybe a couple landing shots. Maybe I overemphasize this. Like if the tumbler is 80% functional, I kid you not. With the exception of actually flying, 90% of what you see on the screen with the bat is actually there. They have helicopters, they have trucks, and everything. They digitally paint them out, but that thing is really moving in the sky. When you see it moving in the sky, I kid you not.
Yeah, for sure.
It's no Batwing though. Let's face it. You kind of want it to be like a Batwing. In some part, you kind of miss the Batwing, but it's cool though. So this gag, I really appreciate it. I did not realize it was from Kingdom Come. They kind of lifted it from Kingdom Come, which again is a fine reference. But even without it, just I love the fact that first and foremost, it's a commentary on Batman always pulling the bad exit on people like poor old Jim Gordon here. Says, oh, so that's what that feels like.
To me, it's just ridiculous that he's using the Batman voice to himself.
No, he's locked in the character. It's all he kind of gets these kicks out of being Batman these days. Why wouldn't he? It's like he's going to do as much as he can while he's in the suit. Like, what else does he have to live for at this point?
Oh, well, that's kind of sad.
No, I'm saying that's what they're doing in the movie, though. That's the point.
Yeah, I hear you.
I love this. This is the first time we really saw this in all its glory, like him in the full suit without the mask on. Which again, it's always a cool Batman shot when he's in the Batcave when he has when he has the mask off in the full costume. Kind of neat that we finally saw that here. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we mentioned this. I do love that we kind of fulfilled the promise of Batman Begins, that we see the Batcave upgraded. And I do love all the upgrades to the Batcave. It looks a lot better than it did in Batman Begins, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Begins worked for what it was. I'm just saying, I like that now it's kind of the proper kind of Batcave. And it's kind of like a cool aesthetic built into it.
Was like the literal cave.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with the Dark Knight, we subverted it entirely.
Sure.
And here it's like, as you said, it's kind of like the fully functional, like fully realized comic interpretation of the Batcave.
And essentially, what Alfred's calling Bruce out on here is what he's about to call him out on, is that basically Batman's recapturing his Batman Begins glory days out there. And Alfred, again, doesn't want to aid Bruce Wayne in costume suicide, essentially. Like, I don't want you to, again, don't look for a good death. This is kind of a fun question of, like, what if Alfred was I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm sorry, I just undercut my own point to what I was about to make. I'm not going to make that point because that wouldn't have made any sense. What I'm saying here is, I love that Alfred's like, he's like, no, I'm not gonna bury you along with your parents because of this endeavor that I helped you start in the first place. I'm not gonna be responsible. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for killing you in a costume. That's not what I signed you up for. And again, because the reason he's turned against the reason he wants to leave, the reason he wants to kind of like stop this now, he wants to want no part in Batman returning at all here, is that it's not about honoring the Wayne family anymore, which is the whole reason he signed up for. It's like, you want to honor your parents, honor the mission. You accomplish what you set out to do. This is not it. It's Batman committing to a mission without hope, without the hope that he once had. Again, this whole movie is about kind of pain thematically, and about kind of hope, and Bane kind of abusing hope with false hope, and Batman being about actual hope, but having to rediscover that the whole mission of Batman was about instilling hope in Gotham. At this point, Batman is hopeless, and it's about him refining hope by the end of the movie.
So Alfred is just kind of like one of the most tragic characters in this whole thing, especially towards the end of the movie. But what do you think of the decision to have him leave like an hour into the movie? That was a very ballsy choice by Nolan.
Well, again, Tiki, it's like each movie we've been stripping away things from Bruce Wayne. We stripped away a lot, like the mansion and everything from the first movie. We stripped away Rachel in the next movie. And like the last thing you can really take away from Bruce Wayne to put him at rock bottom is Alfred. And to get to the point that we're going to really get to rock bottom within this movie, we have to get rid of Alfred. Mm-hmm. And also, it's kind of a fun. I didn't realize it until I was rewatching it, but that I don't know if it's the first time it happened, but in the story that set up Bane in the comics, Batman Venom, the whole thing introduced the drug before they introduced.
I'm sorry, Dragon. Screw the setup. This performance, let's keep it real. Let's keep it in the moment. This performance between Mike O'Kane and Christian Bale is just heartbreaking here. The goodbye Alfred, the whole Alfred basically saying like, I know this is the end of our friendship, but if that means saving your life, then I can do it. And Michael Caine just being on the verge of tears as he's doing it. Like you can literally feel the tears about to, you can literally feel the cracks in his voice. It's like it's so powerful, Dragon.
Yeah. I really like that it's kind of Alfred's version of a Dark Knight sacrifice, where like Batman in the Dark Knight, Alfred is like, if you hate me, that's fine. If it saves you, by all means, hate me. That's kind of what Batman kind of signed up for at the end of Dark Knight. We're like, look, if everybody hates me, that's fine as long as it saves them and saves kind of like Gotham and kind of completes the mission. If it does that, I'll be hated. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this. We had kind of that sad gag where it's like, after Alfred has left him, he's like, Alfred.
I did notice that, yeah.
Also, we kind of have like where the Lego Batman on a robe look kind of came from. Bruce Wayne kind of wandering aimlessly through the manor in the robe.
Sure.
Also, what I was saying with Alfred is that they pulled from Batman Venom the story there, where Alfred quit. Well, Batman was addicted to the Venom drug, like he had to give himself super strength, and Alfred said, "Well, I'm leaving you. This is not, you're irresponsible. I'm leaving you. It's the only way to teach him." Eventually he came back, though. That was the difference. So this is what I'm talking about. Let me kind of part two of my Talia thing here.
Okay.
So here's the thing. This sounds like Talia, what Talia al Ghul would do here. The idea that she would invest, basically, if she like invested in proving Ray wrong, that Gotham can be saved, and the minute she did that, that's when Bruce Wayne retired. Like that would have been kind of a good motivation, that she wanted to use this thing to save Gotham, that she actually invested and wanted to. Again, the idea what we do have in the movie itself is that she did pay for this thing. She paid for the Clean Energy Project. And that's the thing. I feel like we're confused about an idea here, because the way ultimately it pays off is that she's doing this as like a revenge plot. But wouldn't it make more sense if she was doing this because she genuinely believed that she could have saved Gotham? I mean, in the
grand scheme of things, it's just like, ironically enough, it turns into just like another "I want the bomb" sort of situation.
I mean, look, the logic
and much more to her character other than that. It's just like, I want to see Gotham go boom.
I mean, here's the thing: the grand sweeping. The only logic I can really take from it is that, like Bane later on, she and he both want to give Gotham false hope, as in, hey, here's a clean energy project that would solve all of our problems. And again, like the idea of like the false hope of like solving the world's problems, and then basically using that as its undoing. So if it follows the Bane logic, then I guess it makes a little bit of sense, but still not enough for me, And that's the thing. Like, if she she is opposed to her father's methods later on, so I don't understand why. Point is, I think I would have liked it better if she just kind of believed what she was pretending to be, and that would have been like, I think that would have made the Talia thing made a lot more sense. Like, it would have been an interesting choice to say the least. I don't know.
So am I crazy, or is all this corporate drama really really interesting, actually, Dragon? I love the whole oh gee, I don't care if your name is above the door, Mr. Wayne, you have no right to be here.
Daggett such a prick in this movie. He's just such a little
But he does it in
pissant.
such a good way, though. It's like he's a guy you kind of love to hate.
I gotta tell you though, no, I just kind of want to see Bane beat him up before he kills him. I don't know. It's just me. This might be me, because like you stole his money and you kicked him out of the meeting, you prick. Look him in the eye when you're screwing him over, like. And like, this is what I'm talking about here. Is like, when is she sleeping with him?
Right.
So here we go. So Tom Hardy,
okay,
what he does.
Here we go. This is my favorite Bane scene right here.
You go the devil, and he shall appear.
I mean, oh my god. There's just something about every single thing that he does, every single mannerism here. It's perfect.
And that's the thing. Hardy's only acting with his eyes and his body. Well, I don't mean only acting with his eyes and his body. You can see the passion. Like, you can read the intention and everything in the man's eyes, the way he looks at things. And again, that's the thing that's impressive. Even without the voice, you still have a lot of great performance there and a lot of strength in that performance. And of course, like, this bit here was improvised by him when he puts his hand on Daggett's shoulders like this and like kind of caresses his face. That's all improvised. Do you feel in charge?
I love that. And this gives you power over me? Oh, God.
Your money and infrastructure has been important. Till
Dragon,
now.
it's so chilling. Like, to me, this is right up there with any Joker scene, honestly. It's really the only scene in the movie that gets up to Dark Knight levels of awesome, honestly.
Alright. So of course, just like the snap and like the little flopping panic before the snap. That's terrifying. The idea with that, by the way, again, it's like kind of like that scary Heath Ledger, like he's like cutting the smile on the Gamble's face there. It's like this whole he has the idea is like Daggett's still alive when he initially snapped his neck. He has to turn all the way around to kill him.
Right, right.
So this is great. I love that how they set this up. I love that he's mentoring John Blake in basically what he did as a vigilante. He's not trying to mentor him, but he's kind of doing it through conversation here. Then eventually he starts to formulate the idea maybe I can mentor this guy to kind of take up my mantle. I thought that was great. The whole why the mask? Well, it's to be a symbol. And of course, I like how we're examining the symbolism of Batman. Again, we've been building it for 2 movies now. Really, basically doing the big payoff for it. I love the big payoff for it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anyway, this one, Anne Hathaway again. She captures. I say this now because recently in the comics, Tom King, great one of the current writer on Batman, he did a really breathtakingly good relationship on Batman and Catwoman, and I think he just did a gangbusters job. And I think this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if again this might have been like a little like kind of inciting thing of like these 2 characters always historically for like 70 years plus these 2 characters always been kind of like the ultimate cat and mouse game of romance. The ultimate kind of like these 2. To me, like look at the end of the day, and this kind of makes me this little nitpick I have with the movies. Traditionally, for me, my pick for Batman is always Talia al Ghul. That's the one I think Batman is perfect for Talia al Ghul. But of course, that's
a total fan nitpick, Dragon. You can't let that ruin.
No. I'm not. Let me be clear. I'm not holding that against the movie. I'm just saying that traditionally, like it's like Batman and Talia. That's like the Romeo and Juliet of comics. But Batman Catwoman, that's a great match as well. And we do that here. I just wish that Talia was a little bit more well represented because we do that relationship, but we don't really make you care about it as much as like you usually would. At least I think we are supposed to care about it in the movie. But more on that later. Uh-huh. Of course, this is by the way, Foley's just such a. I'm sorry, so I want to say really nasty things about Foley here, but I just want to hold myself back a little. It's just that Foley here, he's just like no one listens to this kid. I mean, no one listens to John Blake here, and he has good ideas. You're like, no, let's go down the sewers and find him. And it's like too many hotheads in the department. Even that soldier later on, the captain later on, is like, oh, too many hotheads around. This guy's gonna get himself killed.
Honestly, the hothead thing in this movie kind of bothers me. It's like a runner that's like, all right, like.
What I'm saying. It's a little on the nose of saying, okay, this guy should be outside of law enforcement.
Right, exactly.
So again, there's another idea that's kind of refreshing with Batman. We rarely see this idea done. Batman with his money stripped away. I kind of wish we lingered more on that. I wish we saw again. I would have been not like here's I think would have solved a lot of the Batman problems.
It leads to the ultimate plot hole in the movie, Dragon.
Oh, anyway, I would have liked if maybe we got.
Well, I'm not a big fan of this at all.
Well,
the hookup with Talia.
Well, yeah, we'll get there. One second. Okay. With the money thing, I like that we strip Bruce Wayne's money away, and that kind of brings him down. It would have been nice to kind of go on a little bit more as Batman. Like if they had like one other brief Batman sequence where again it was kind of like he's kind of dwindling without the money, and he's like it's a Batman with like lesser resources. It's always kind of an interesting idea we rarely see tackled with the Batman character. It's always kind of like a rife with possibility. So now we have the hookup between Batman and Miranda Tate here.
To me, there's just no real reason for this.
Well, it's a misdirect. I'm sorry, let me start here. So
it's cheap, Dragon. It's just cheap. Like, oh no, maybe he'll end up with Miranda Tate instead of Selena Kyle. That's all it is. That's the only purpose it serves.
I feel in the grand scheme this scene is rendered pointless because we don't care about this relationship. If we cared about it, then this would make all the sense in the world that okay, suspicion is thrown off, he's actually developed this to me is the thing that Nolan runs into with a few of his movies. That Nolan sometimes is not that good at romance. With the exception of Inception, Nolan really isn't keen on romance. Where, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Batman and Catwoman do have chemistry, but it's not necessarily like even that's romance enough. Like that's the romance you need for those two characters, but this isn't necessarily. Again, I don't buy this relationship, and I'm not really invested in the whole reveal because of that later on. That's a big problem.
Sure.
Is that reveal? Here's the thing. I'll tease my opinion. One, I love this money shot here. Batman overlooking Gotham. Great money shot. Yeah, the problem is later on that reveal the reveal's not necessarily bad, but the problem is that it means nothing if we don't care about that character. Like, oh my god, that means something now, you know?
Yeah, Miranda Tate, just as a concept, it's like
it's a red herring performance.
As we said, Dragon, it would be. I feel like all our problems would be solved, and it would be a much better movie if Talia al Ghul was just a centerpiece of the movie. It'd be a bigger draw, you know what I mean? Like Bruce Wayne having to deal with the fact that Ra's al Ghul's daughter is essentially having to bail out the Wayne Company, like all the tension that would cause between them.
At risk.
Like literally being an open book about it would make the plot more interesting. That's the frustrating thing.
Tiki, I'd love to see that version of the movie. Don't get me wrong, that's a great idea, and I love that. And again, like at risk of rewriting the movie, you also have that imagine if you had the masquerade scenes. Much I loved it between Batman and Catwoman. Imagine if you had that between like Talia basically revealing who she is like at the Batman Begins party scene to him at that moment. So of course this is great. The two of them taking out basically a lot of bat entrances and exits. Him taking out guys, a lot of great stealth takedowns, and again Batman Catwoman chemistry in the costume. That's always good. So here we go, folks. Now, I think objectively, this is probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. No question.
So it's not I love this scene. It's not my favorite. My favorite scene's later in the movie. This is still, I think, the best scene, though, hands down, easily. So Batman...
I mean, this scene is just first of all, I love the fact that there's no music and you can just hear the rushing water and the chains. Mm-hmm. Just all the tension, let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne, calling right off the bat, I know who you are. Let's not bullshit around with this.
So this scene, this is the best directed scene in the entire film. I mean, this is all Christian Bale and Tom Hardy, by the way. No stunt doubles at all during the sequence. They're they factored character into the fighting styles. Again, traditionally Batman he's pulling a little bit of Kesey, but it's been a while, so it was just kind of really. He's all aggression and anger, and the scene's all about aggression, anger, and pain, especially pain from the Bane, what he's inflicting on Batman here. Basically, it's less the pain physically of Batman's feeling, it's kind of the pain of Bane chastising him through the whole fight of you're past your prime. This was a mistake for you to come back.
Right.
And that's the thing, he's fighting, and Bane has, the Bane dialogue is my favorite Bane dialogue, and probably some of the... in the entire film, all this Bane dialogue is fantastic, and again factored into the character here of you fight like a younger man with nothing held back, admirable but mistaken. All that's wonderful here, and of course him basically saying, Victor, peace has made you soft, victory has defeated you, all that, because again, peace times have made Batman soft. He's out of practice again because he gave up the goat, and now he's coming back, and we're seeing again the price of him being so physically beaten, and again being held together by duct tape essentially with those braces and everything. Again, just the physical choreography is it's so good in this scene. It's an excellent fight. And of course, we're kind of in Bane's version of the Batcave with, again, this underground, again, all the darkness and evil that's bubbling beneath Gotham.
I love how as this fight goes on, Bane's voice gets more and more intense to the point where you can almost hear the voice box starting to crack because he's just emoting so much.
I didn't quite get that, but that's a good. I should read into that. That's good. I like that. I didn't see that. Gotta rewatch that. Also, Tom Hardy has must be waterproof makeup they're using, because again, they didn't do this digitally, but they covered up all of Tom Hardy's tattoos with makeup. Fun fact.
Okay, the moment I'm talking about here where
Well, real quick, this is great. I love how Batman blends into the shadows and Bane finds him in the shadows, because again, being trapped in darkness for so long, he would be adept to this.
Delivery, the blinding.
Blinding.
Yeah.
I mean, I love these high highs that he delivers in this, with the voice. I thought that I picked up on. Like, I don't know, I didn't quite get the cracking of the voice, like, so I don't know, but I definitely got like the whole Now I love this again, the cracking of the mask. We've broken him as a symbol with the mask. I love that with that punch and that crack of the mask that we saw teased in the very beginning of the movie. Sure. Now this is all okay. So this is a model we. Basically, the seal is like a little third scale model. They actually explode and drop an actual tumbler down, like an actual third scale version of the tumbler. It's all practical, what you just saw there. Which is cool. But I mean, yeah, here's one of my favorite. There's, to me, is one of the most quotable of the Bane lines, aside from, of course. It's, yes, I was wondering what would break first. Your spirit? Oh, your body. And of course, to me, I saw a statue of this, and I would love the statue of this Bane, like lifting Batman over his head.
Yes. Oh my God, that'd be great.
And again, like this moment in the movie, I'm like on the edge. I'm just like, oh, it's like just, it's like they've.
It would be intense, and my golly, it was intense.
Yep. Oh, by the way, Tom Hardy, when he had, of course, him holding the broken mask. That's great. Sorry, it's just great.
And I love how he kind of like casually drops it, like whatever.
And I love these periodic cuts throughout the fight of Catwoman feeling so bad about what she's done and seeing her scared of Bane. And like, again, that's why she's scared and trying to leave town later on. Tom Hardy, when he was doing that scene, just in general when he's fighting Batman, specifically that scene, I believe, he had trouble with it because he was beating up his childhood hero. I find that so cute.
Tom Hardy.
That's the thing. Like, he had trouble with those in choreographing things. I mean, I'm beating up my childhood hero. I mean, I'd be in the same position.
That's so adorable.
It is, right? So basically, her in this hat ran. This is pure Hedy Lamarr stuff, Tiki. Like right here, this is pure like Hedy Lamarr stuff.
Sure. This is actually probably my favorite Selena scene. If I'm being honest, I really like the look. I really like her, the different ways in which she gets out of stuff. I like the suspense. I like the music.
I mean, Tiki, again, in all retrospect, I mean, just take the clean slate thing out of the equation. She's great in the movie.
No, you're right. You're right.
So, of course, here just showing that she has no, again, kind of the classic Catwoman not having faith in the GCPD and the legal system, especially after seeing how they had their butts handed to them by Bane. It's just like, okay, you guys can't protect. She just laughs it off with a look, and I think that's great. And there was a lot of talk of again, for the umpteenth time, we thought Bullock might be in this movie. People thought that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was going to be Bullock, and again, it was like, hey, you never know.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt would have made a lousy Bullock. I still think that Jeff Bridges would make the best Bullock.
He wouldn't have been a bad Bullock, don't get me wrong. Again, I would say in the Grand Nolan trilogy, Steffens, the guy, the Joker threatened with the glass in Dark Knight, that guy should have been Bullock in this trilogy. There's no excuse why that guy shouldn't have been Bullock.
Right.
So they actually shot, the top of the well here, the top of the pit, is in India. So they shot this in India, and all this stuff is on location.
And the prison stuff is my least favorite part of the movie, Dragon.
Really? It's your least favorite?
Hands down, easily. No question.
This scene, though, you gotta admit, this scene's really good, too, between him and Bane.
All the Bane stuff is great. I'm just saying, like, I think the prison stuff, when he's actually in the prison, really, really drags, and there's a lot of nitpicky stuff I have about the prison that really drags it down for me.
Okay, real quick, we got to talk about this. To me, is one of the Hardys. Like, this is the best eye acting of Tom Hardy here, where he's just like, not of your body, of your soul. I just love how soft and like kind of menacing he is in this scene here. It's like a really quiet scene between the two of them, just telling him like the hell on earth that this prison is and what he's going to do to Gotham. Basically telling Batman like just the line that sells it for me is like, when you truly understand the depths of your failure, then you have my permission to die. It's like the fact that he's going to make sure that he's going to make Batman suffer more than he's ever suffered before. Less the psychological and spiritual break. That's the thing that gets me about all this. Like shipwreck men turning the seawater. It's just, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, again, that's what I'm talking about with Bane. I like that Bane is, I'll get to that when we get to the occupation in Gotham, all of that. To me, I want to talk about kind of Bane as a symbol here. I like that Bane, in a way, on a rewatch here, kind of hit me, that Bane is kind of a combination of Batman and the Joker in a way. And I don't mean like a Two-Face way. Two-Face is like a literal like example of like the War of Gotham, what that whole movie was about. But I mean thematically in the trilogy. Think about this. Bane is the League of is the League of Shadows version of a symbol of like he's their version of Batman. Like, if you need a symbol of the League of Shadows, Bane's their guy. Symbol like Batman was to Gotham. And he's kind of proving the Joker's philosophy, and that Joker's philosophy is that people will eat each other if they're put into a situation, which is exactly what Bane unleashes on Gotham. So it's kind of a combination of kind of both movies.
Is in a way kind of like a more successful version of Ledger's Joker. He's like, you want a social experiment, Joker? I'll give you a goddamn social experiment.
I mean, elements like that really make the trilogy as a whole kind of come alive when you really think about it.
No, you're right. You're right. I can see that.
Little cameo here. So this guy here, Wade Williams, the detective here, he's Wade Williams. He was Black Mask, the voice of Black Mask in Batman Under the Red Hood.
Nice.
And he, most people, I hope some people will remember him as Belloc, the corrupt guard, who was really fun. He basically plays evil William Shatner. He plays a corrupt guard in Prison Break, which again, no one must watch Prison Break because that's where he got. Yeah, we have William Fichtner, who's also in Prison Break from The Dark Knight, the bank manager, the mob bank.
Right.
Like, he's pulling from Prison Break. This guy. So again, going from prison to one prison, Prison Break to the prison of Santa Prisca.
Oh yeah. All right. I don't know. Again, I feel like the bomb of it all just kind of, it's a little bit too cliche for a villain plot. Just, at the end of the day, Bane, instead of being like bomb, he's more like bomb.
I mean, you got him at that's kind of. Here's I'm just dying to know how intentional it is, but Nolan, he's kind of taken the ridiculous things that we don't with Batman. He's made a genuine attempt to legitimize them with the 66 Batman bomb sequence and with Bane and his fixation on bombs.
Right.
I'd love it if that were fully intentional, which again we just have no inkling of. But I'd love to think that's the direct reference to that.
Oh my god.
More on the bomb later. We'll wait for the bomb to get introduced. But real quick here, we're back at the prison. I like that. So I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. So this prison again is a practical set. They built this thing from scratch, and it's like 70 feet deep. And everything you see again, like the tunnel set, where basically the place where you make the climb is an actual. You can climb that thing. Like this is all real. Like him climbing up this giant wall. That's an actual wall there. It's not as tall as it seems. They grew it a little digitally, but there's an actual practical wall that you're climbing.
Oh. And
like the whole set's practical, and it's inspired by one of Nolan's favorite things. Nolan loves Escher stairs, which we got a definite sense of in Inception and in Interstellar.
Oh, sure.
And also, when they were on location, they kind of when they leave the cell, like the walls around the cell that kind of look like Escher steps, they're actual Indian stairwells that do look like Escher steps, and that kind of.
Here we go. I feel like the Bane flashbacks and the Talia misdirect, it's fine, but
yeah.
Dragon, I feel like one of the things that maybe you and I can agree on is, like we were saying with the Alfred Cafe scene, maybe not actually showing the flashbacks, but instead just having the conversation would have worked better.
Here's the thing, though. I think as like a reveal, because again, you see that kid, and again, you can't really tell if that kid's a boy or a girl in the grand scheme of things. So you have the shaved down head and we're completely covered up. I kind of like that. Again, I like that. That to me works visually a lot better than the Alfred thing does. Like at least that one is that's a misdirect you can get away with. You're right; it could have worked either way. They didn't need it.
I'm just saying that in the prison scenes, we see that kid a lot, and we see the cutaways, and it's just like gets to the point where for me it's a little repetitive, and that's why the prison scenes kind of drag. Where it's like, all right, I get it. There's the kid, and he crawled his way out of the prison at a young age, and yeah,
and maybe it's a little frequent.
Coming out of me, I guess.
Well, I mean, look, maybe it's a bit of like we revisit that no pun intended, a little much, but I do like that. I think the main draw, the reason it's in there, Tiki, is again, that's literally like you seeing the very famous Bane origin unfold before your eyes. Essentially, that's kind of the cool thing about it.
Sure. Sure, I can see that.
I mean, I think that's why it's in there so much, because they want to, like, oh, you know, diehard Bane fans, you're gonna love that, you know, because again, that is really cool to see.
Uh-huh.
So of course, here we got some fun, like, you know, like on a rewatch, you're like, okay, yeah, she's very easy to like, you know, scan her hand, like, you know, unlock the bomb here, because again, she wants that to happen.
Right.
Of course, Dr. Pavel.
Yeah, Dr. Pavel. First of all, I just love that name. It's just a fun name to say, Dr. Pavel.
It'd be hilarious if Dr. Pavel and Bane were roommates, and just Pavel be terrified on like a 24/7 basis of like,
No, Dr. Pavel, don't be afraid to use the bathroom after I've used it. It's okay.
Dr. Pavel, I said stay on your side of the tape. That side of the apartment is yours. This side of it is mine.
All right.
So I love this. I love that Blake, and it's kind of fun. This one's kind of dawning on me in the moment here. I like that, kind of like Bruce Wayne going from father figure to father figure, or one could say mentor to mentor in Batman Begins. John Blake has a couple mentors in this movie here, where, you know, he goes from Jim Gordon as his initial mentor, and of course Bruce Wayne and Batman are the other mentors.
Oh.
That's kind of cool. But yeah, I like kind of Gordon like mentoring him from the hospital, saying it's like he's kind of feeling that you're a detective now, son. You're not allowed to believe in coincidences. That was like such like a Mean Joe Green coconut small moment for Gordon, and John Blake from his like, yeah, that's nice, yeah. And this is great. And this to me, I thought was a nice little nod to, okay, this guy's definitely cut out. He's Batman material right here. This whole basically Blake accidentally shoots one of our construction
work.
Yeah, again, he's doing some detective work. He's really smart, and by the same token, he hates guns. That's Batman.
Oh, definitely, I can see that.
Yeah, nice.
And Dragon, I gotta be honest with you, Blake does really, really work for me. He worked for me from the first time I saw the movie. He's one of the elements that did. The unfortunate thing is, I feel like the Robin thing is kind of like a sticking point that a lot of people have on his character, and I feel like it's an unfair kind of like weird thing that hangs over him.
Yeah, it is kind of. Yeah, it is unfair. I mean, here's the thing. Now, this of course would have blown the reveal away, but here's the thing. A lot of people would have.
Reveal is that his first name is Robin. Wow.
Well, no. Here's the thing. What I'm getting at, Tiki, is that many fans, myself included, the thing that would have made it a lot better for people. Again, it would still come at the end as a reveal. The better reveal would have been if his name was Terry McGinnis.
You see, I would have been totally down with that. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Everyone would have collectively loved it if it was Terry McGinnis. But then you have the question of one, like you have like there's a whole fake name, like, you know, he changed the name entirely. Right. Like he changed the name entirely. And again, part of you would love it if Terry McGinnis were mentioned at the very start. That'd be cool. But then you see, I don't know. I still love it either way. If it was just his name was Terry McGinnis, but it would have been like a big giveaway to fans of what was going to happen in the movie. That's the thing. So. Okay, boy, oh boy, here's a big sequence. So this is actually shot.
My voice.
All right, we're getting there.
I got one. All right, I got one in there.
So this is actually shot at the home of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, the Gotham Rogues are using the Pittsburgh Steelers colors of red and gold. You'll notice the mascot for the Gotham Rogues. Of course, the Gotham Rogues being the nickname for Batman's villains. We have like bandits, like with like kind of these little bandanas in front of their faces. You have like some guys in the crowds are holding R's that are in the shape of the Robin logo, which is kind of cute.
Oh God!
You know, the thing that now is being used as a shuriken weapon. Of course, unfortunately, poor poor Mayor Garcia here. He's gonna be killed.
Yep. Poor Alex Romero himself.
Poor Nestor Carbonell. So
Richard Alpert.
God. So by the way, so they in the room. Of course, like, well, lovely voice. That was an improv, by the way.
Dragon, I love that. All right, as much as I make fun of it, it's genuinely terrifying in context.
It is. Of course, kind of a meta gag too. Like people might complain about the voice. Well, there's my little acknowledgement of it. What a lovely voice.
Right.
So let's see. So by the way, they actually they again, just the practicality. It's funny here, folks. There's not a CG crowd here, but this is a huge stadium that seats 80,000. And like a lot of those people, half of that crowd is created by basically filming people and then laying them into the image. So again, they're not created from scratch, but they're actual people who were shot and basically copied and pasted all over that place.
Oh.
So again, this to me, I like this part of the I really like this part of Bane's plan here. They basically use. I like how he utilized Daggett. Like that's where all the stock market stuff and all the Wall Street stuff really pays off for me right here. That I'm sorry, real quick. All of this stuff. Basically, what they've done here is that you have an arena, a field, a football field that's built with like these little holes that these football players are diving into. Actual football players, they're diving into these holes, and they basically have these charges behind them as they're running. Like these from a safe distance, charges are like a different shot. You have charges going off behind them. They're diving in the holes, and they raise the football stadium to cover up and kind of like a digital overlay, so it looks like it's all this one seamless shot. It's really cool. And the mayor of Pittsburgh is actually the kicker who put that ball into play.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so the actual mayor of Pittsburgh, you got a cameo in the movie as a football player. And these poor people,
again, I feel like this movie does kind of fall apart in some spots towards the end. It's mostly the third act that you and I both have problems with. This part of the movie, ironically enough, the part of the movie that most stories have a hard time to tell, Act 2, fires on all cylinders. Dragon, all this Occupy Gotham stuff is amazing.
So before there's a lot to unpack with it, but real quick, let me say this. So again, I love the whole construction angle. Like he used Daggett to overlay, basically build bombs into the cement, and had Daggett's crews working around the clocks on the bridges to blow up all the bridges. That was really and kill the mayor too. Like he specifically wanted to kill the mayor and get rid of all the figures of order in Gotham. So it was a really swiftly well executed plan.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And I love this whole tension about saving Jim Gordon. This is a great little scene. Great. Nolan knows how to do intensity. If we've learned nothing from Dunkirk, it's that Nolan can do intensity.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. Just checking.
I mean, yeah, if Nolan can do anything, it's intensity. We have boatloads of here. Of course, like Jim Gordon, I was a little worried for him here. I knew he wasn't going to get killed, but I was like a little worried for that. Nolan's not going to fool me twice with that.
Oh, God.
Fool me once, Nolan. Again, I mean, look, again, that's that Nolan drill, Tiki. Like, go, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's in running shape. Look at this kid go.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that young buck, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, JGL. Look at him. This guy could be Batman. I'd buy it. It's like Batman if he could run like Tom Cruise. Clear the corners, rookie. Yeah. Nice. So yes, with the Occupy Gotham stuff, it's the kind of bridge on the big kind of announcement of said plan here. So what I love that he's wearing this revolutionary jacket. One of the really great looks of Bane. We just kind of added this jacket, and now for a while we just added that to him in the comics because it's just such a good look. And this jacket, it's a mix of a Swedish jacket and a revolutionary jacket. And Christopher Nolan is a huge fan of the Charles Dickens of the work of Charles Dickens. Tale of Two Cities, and this jacket is from Tales of Two Cities for all intents and purposes.
And that's interesting that you say that, Dragon, because of course the Tale of Two Cities, it's
best
at times, worst at times. It's the classic class warfare thing.
Yeah. So I love what he's kind of doing here. Is Bane is showing Gotham what it could have. Again, maybe this is where I'm going to infuse some of the Talia logic here. Is that in the grand scheme, I think with the whole stripping hope away from
snap is brutal, by the way. Like I don't care if it's technically off screen; it's just how abrupt it is.
Well, no, it's on screen. It's just from a far away distance. You can still see that neck snap happen. So yeah, I love that what he's doing here. Again, the grander scheme of the whole take hope away from Gotham before you kill it. Just going with that logic. Is that what Bane's doing here? Is he's showing Gotham kind of, I guess, in the grander scheme, what Talia's doing before, we're gonna kill everybody, giving them false hope. Is that they're showing Gotham what it could have done before this was necessary. Like, we're going to kill you, but we're going to show you what you should have done to avoid being killed by us. That's the greater painful insult of it all. Am I right?
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Like, if you guys took out the corrupt, the Wall Street guys, the corruption, if you got rid of all of that, you wouldn't even be on our docket. We're going to go through all of this to do this, and of course, without telling you, we're going to blow you up in the end. Even the moment you think you've settled into this new this new rough transitional period, this new revolutionary period in Gotham. You think you're settled in, you're safe. You're not.
You're not. Nope. Sorry. Try again.
And of course, so here's the board to address the bomb thing a little bit here. With the government and with the bomb, this to me is like borders on the line. Like it walks the line, maybe kind of stumbles a little bit over the line for me at times. There are times you can go too big for Batman. I think when you leave Gotham, you do risk that.
Right.
Like you go to Hong Kong, that's globetrotting Batman. That's like a little visit. But when you kind of like we acknowledge the outside world, I mean, of course, the main thing to take away from all of this is that oh my God, we're doing No Man's Land, a really great Batman story, and we do No Man's Land. And my problem is I want to see. I think a lot of people's problem is that we want to see more of No Man's Land because it's such a fascinating idea. And luckily for us, season 5 of Gotham is No Man's Land, which is going to be delightful.
But with this, we basically get fleeting glimpses of what No Man's Land is actually like.
And that's the thing; they do it so well, but just you want to see more of it, though, because again, this is for all its purposes. That's exactly what we do with No Man's Land, but we could have done more Batman villains. But of course, we don't really have a whole catalog, but we could have introduced a few. But I don't want to split hairs. It is what it is. So I'm not going to make any qualms about that. You know?
Uh-huh.
Again, it's a pretty clever plan to give us No Man's Land here. Again, that gotta admit it, Teague. We do so much iconic. We do 3 iconic Batman stories in this movie, like we did in Dark Knight. Here, we do. We do Dark Knight Returns, a huge one. We do Nightfall, the whole Bane breaking Batman's back, and we get a little splash of No Man's Land in there.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, Dragon, and that's the thing that I've always admired about Christopher Nolan's writing with the Dark Knight saga. Is the fact that he never takes from just one source material. He never directly adapts, but he does find a great way to kind of spin. Christopher Nolan, of course, is he's great within his medium. He knows how to adapt from his medium.
And again, that's also thanks to that kind of that trio of him, Goyer, and Jonathan Nolan. Like Jonathan Nolan and Goyer are really the big comic fans, and Nolan's just kind of he just kind of knows how to put it together, I guess. So, by the way, it passed already, but I love the moment. It felt so much like it's that moment for you from Dark Knight where he puts his hand on his hip when he's shaking the mayor's hand. To me, it was the bit where Gordon says after the announcement the government's bailing out of Gotham, basically saying like, "No, we're not going to help Gotham out, our strongest city," and basically Blake saying, "What does that mean?" And Gordon has his perfect line. Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon again representing him so well here says, "It means we're on our own."
Yeah.
That's Gordon. So. As much as I love that line, coming up here is one of my favorite heartbreaking Jim Gordon lines in this movie. It's this line that it's one of my favorite lines in the movie. I'm sorry, it's just really great. Coming up here, basically what Bane's just build up to it a little here. So what Bane's doing here is he's using the Harvey Dent line, and for the folks out there, if you want to split hairs, I mean, look, he's using it as an example. All right, it's not the end all be all. Like people believe him. It doesn't matter if people believe him or not. He's just riling up the prisoners on the inside with this. That's really what he's doing here. That's the main takeaway. And it's just kind of using it to kind of light the revolution, but it's not like the thing it gets. Again, we see people's true nature just going to come out giving an excuse, and that's the point of it all here. That all of this, the lie is an example of corruption and kind of that achieved peace in Gotham. Again, the tale of two cities of it all here is kind of like the whole city at war with itself. I love when basically, again, if you're going to do Gordon having a corrupt action, like this is the way to do it. Like we address the lie, the big, the ethics of like the lie that preserved peace in Gotham, the Dent Act. You got to remember, these guys have been denied parole for 8 years because of this, and for all intents and purposes, for parole in general, for the foreseeable future, as long as the Dent Act is in practice. So that's why there's kind of an ethical debate going on about that here, and this bit right here coming up with Gordon here, where Blake's kind of questioning him on this, and he just turns to him and he says, I want to get the subtitles right. There's a point far out there when structures fail you, and here's the line. When the rules aren't weapons anymore, right here. Sorry, there's shackles letting the bad guys get ahead. And one day you may face such a moment of crisis. And in that moment, I hope you had a friend like I did. That's the line where I was pumping my fists in the air in my mind, and that theater was like, yes! It's like that beautiful acknowledgement of the, like, I hope you had a friend like I did, facing the worst and being on my own in Gotham. I hope you had a vigilante friend like I did. Like that moment there, like that speaks to the Gordon Batman friendship, and it's like, yes, that's such a beautiful, tragic line. It's like he had to make that compromise. That's the compromise that built the foundation of that friendship, and I love that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Of course, here just kind of Bane stealing the show here. Gotham is yours. None shall interfere. Do as you please. This city will endure. Well, essentially, that's what he's getting. Oh, we see Blackgate, by the way. We kind of built it. We kind of mentioned Blackgate a couple times. We actually finally get to see it after 3 movies.
Right, right.
And again, it's a pretty imposing shot. And again, this is no man's land for all intents and purposes here, folks. Criminals are on the streets and they're armed. Boatloads by the boatloads. So now we're seeing the whole lot.
Dragon. Yeah. Occupy Gotham.
Absolutely.
Straight up.
And again, like given the chance, the city will eat itself. And again, you wonder now, Tiki. I think the greater question in the trilogy here is: does this happen because it was inevitable, or does this happen because we took Batman out of the equation? I like to think it's because we took Batman out of the equation. I like to think that's kind of that's why it was so easy for people to do this.
Yeah, I mean, because as we see at the beginning of The Dark Knight, like Batman is the big thing that's keeping criminals at bay. Even just the idea of Batman, and that's one of the things that I really love about The Dark Knight is, how in that first 20 minutes we really set up how effective the idea of Batman is.
Exactly. This great city will endure. Oh, by the way,
I love how sincere Bane is about oh, Gotham, I really care about Gotham, even though I'm going to blow it up.
Well, this is because we had these up close shots of Bane. I just wanted to mention this because I forgot about it. We had these little moments, and again, we had like that really weird random insert of Talia after the sex scene where we saw like the scar on her back. And while I was watching I had no idea what that is until I looked into the fact of it here, because I found out that what they were getting, because again, it was such a pointless cut. I still have no idea why we even had that cut. But here's the thing. The rationale is that Bane has the identical scar on his head, so it's like a little minute clue. But who's gonna catch that really while they're watching the movie? That's what I like.
Wow. Yeah.
That to me felt like, okay, Nolan, they had some good. Yeah, there were some good clues in this movie about the Talia thing. But I mean, seriously, that's your visual clue. So I like the prison doctors, by the way. I kind of like
them. Yeah, what do you think about the back healing?
Yeah, here's the thing. The back healing has no easy solution, because even in the comics, it was still like a whole I still, for the life of me, I can't remember how exactly they heal his back, because I think they used some mysticism was really weird. It's bad. The point is, you can never heal the back just right, with the exception of doing that exoskeleton thing. With the exception of doing that, you're never going to have like a good back healing solution, in my opinion. So I think this was the best. I'm fine with this, to be quite. It's like, because the idea is that the bone is not protruding from his back just out of place, and he punches it back into place, and it's very painful, and months do go by. Like, time passes. We don't know how much time passes before he stands on his own. I'm fine with it, honestly.
Fair enough.
And thematically, here's the greater thing. Now, some people might be rolling their eyes at this, but just go with me on it. I might be just saying I'm singing the praises here. I like the philosophic, the thematic Lazarus Pit idea of this prison. It's a pit, again, like the Lazarus Pit. And Bruce Wayne comes out of it healed, and healed not just on the physical level, but healed on the character level. So like he finds a reason to live as Bruce Wayne when he comes out of that pit. So that's kind of nice. That's kind of like the fanaticism there.
Yeah, no, by all intents and purposes, it definitely is the trilogy's Lazarus Pit. I mean,
again, it's a nice Nolanized version. It's the Nolan idea of the Lazarus Pit, kind of like not a literal version of immortality. Because again, it was a huge question ever since Batman Begins. Like, are we going to do the Lazarus Pit ever with Nolan? Like, is he going to do that?
Right.
Tiki, answer me that. I've always felt this since the movie. Does this one person doctor, the one that fixes his back here, does he remind you vaguely of Dustin Hoffman?
Of Dustin Hoffman? Yeah, I could kind of see it. I
always felt that since the trailer for the movie. Like, that guy looks like a cross between Michael Caine and Dustin Hoffman. It's kind of
good form. You know what? I'm
This
glad you
scene,
mentioned Michael Caine though, because Michael, like when I saw the trailer,
was it
I
Alfred
always,
in the prison with him? That was the question.
yeah, I always thought it was like, well, I knew it wasn't Alfred in the prison with him, but I always thought it was basically like an Alfred doppelganger, like a Michael Caine doppelganger.
But enough of doppelgangers. It's Oscar Schindler.
It's Oscar Schindler.
Okay, no, but in all seriousness, this was remarkably awesome. And there's always a question of how much Liam Neeson Liam Neeson is like very limited in his time. Otherwise, he might have been in a movie more. Whether that is true or not. Point is,
Well, I think it works. I think it works just fine here.
I'm fine with it too, and I really like this kind of showcases. It's kind of again, you can get away with this in the pit of all places where he has time to contemplate and think here. Where I like that one, it's tied to the Lazarus Pit idea, but two, I like that it's Batman's detective side of himself putting things together, and that he's hallucinating Ra's, and that's him putting together the mystery of like, oh my God, Bane is the son. Again, it's him figuring things out. Like Bane is the offspring of Ra's al Ghul. Because he mentioned he had a child, with the wife, and again, that's all Ra's al Ghul's backstory. By the way, the whole like he had a wife that was taken away from him. So they're mixing Bane. I should mention this is important. A really good Bane story that they did in the comics that they borrowed from for this idea that's facilitated this idea for any like astute watchers, I guess, was that there was a story in the comics where Bane was looking for his father. Bane never knew his father because basically what you see in the movie here is that Bane's father committed a crime, but they found the mother, and the mother gave birth to a child, and that child was Bane. And Bane looked for his father in the comics, and we had all these red herrings like who could his father be? Like, and that's the thing. Like Ra's al Ghul as his father is kind of a good mixing of those ideas. Ra's lost his wife, and we set that up in Begins, and we mix that Bane story. Like, okay, fuse them together. That's a great puzzle piece. It's kind of nice. I mean, I was like, when I was watching a movie like this, yeah, that works. That links up really well. Good for Nolan.
No, and you're right, and I do think that The Dark Knight Rises is a pretty decent attempt to bridge both The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, and in a way, like tonally and just visually, and the way everything fits together, it is kind of a blending of the two.
Yeah. I love that haunting line that Ra's had. And again, it makes so much more sense because we watch shows on a regular basis that have hallucinized versions of people that you hold in great acclaim, like of course Norma Bates or or Mr. Robot.
Okay, well, thank you for not putting Hannah Baker in that same league of Norma Bates and Mr. Robot, all right?
Sure. Well, now we have, but thanks for that. My point is that I love that we have this great haunting line by Ra's that's basically Batman chewing himself out for the lie of Harvey Dent, where it says it's basically through Ra's al Ghul he's critiquing what Ra's always said about like Gotham can't be saved, and what Bruce is saying to himself essentially is what did you achieve in your years of trying to save Gotham? You achieved peace with a lie. Mm-hmm. And again, that's the impact of the movie that I love thematically. That's kind of a foreshadow for the ending of the movie that he does lie yet again, but it's a lie that is maintaining the symbol and everything. So again, we kind of facilitate another lie. It's kind of nice. With that. So as we saw, Selena Kyle, she's kind of at home in the kind of the no man's land version of Gotham. It's kind of her Shangri-La, but something's kind of eating away at her. She's like, something's not right about it. Families are getting booted out of their homes. Something's off there. Kind of the age-old, oh, that Catwoman, she can be rehabilitated.
Right. Don't worry, Catwoman. Only 10 long years in rehabilitation, and you'll be free as a bird.
God, I want to rewatch that now. So, by the way, speaking of 60s Batman, it's kind of funny that it's so perverse that so in a great way. In the 60s Batman comics that inspired the animated movies, but in the 66 Batman comics, they did Bane, and they had an homage to.
Oh no! Did they? Did they really?
No, they did Bane. They did a 60s version of Bane as like kind of a.
Tell me.
They did the Luchador Bane, but here's the cool thing: like the second, it gets Luchador Bane. But what they did is they homaged Dark Knight Rises, and they gave him the Bane mask for like I forget if it was Batman threw like a thing at his face, and the thing at his face formed the Bane mask from Dark Knight Rises. I think there's like a trap or something for his face. Like they worked in the mask somehow. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's what they did. It was cool.
Oh man.
So honestly, here, let me address this. So the soldiers kind of, again, the government sneaking in soldiers to help Gotham out. To me, this isn't. They need an excuse for exposition. We didn't need this. It leads to the cool bit later on. That's the only thing you really take away from it. It leads to the whole like hang them where they can be seen.
No, I agree. I agree. I do like the hang them where they can be seen bit, but it's.
I mean, that is cool, but aside from that, it's like the only reason they're in there is to get to that bit. Really, it's like we need that bit, and really, we need them for an exposition dump here of like, okay, these guys are formulating a plan, so they need to explain the plan to somebody. Why they couldn't have explained it to, I don't know, maybe Blake or somebody. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Or maybe Foley, because Foley's a little slow. Who knows? I'm sorry for Matthew Modine. He's kind of incurring my wrath this evening.
Oh God, yeah, poor Matthew Modine.
I'm hoping he's alive, by the way. The character on a certain show.
I'm about to say, like, gee, you make it cryptic if Matthew Modine, like, did he get in a horrible automobile accident or something?
No.
Like, I hope Matthew Modine's alive, by the way. He's in our thoughts and prayers.
He's fine. So, by the way, I love Christopher Nolan. I want to say he made all of those chalk markings in the close-up shots, by the way. Of the bat symbol.
That Nolan himself, like, handmade them.
Yeah, because there are shots of him like doing that, and I imagine all the close-up shots are actually it's either him doing the fine tuning on it or it's him making them entirely in the close-up shot. So I like to think he made at the very least anytime they're if not in the close-up shot when you see them just there on the buildings, like there's a chance he could have made most of those that are already there.
That's cool. That's cool.
That was a good market. I love that as a marketing idea too. Like Batman has been here. Like they're using the symbol of Batman. That the GCP is using the symbol of Batman as a symbol of like, okay, check. They're honoring him in some ways. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and that's another kind of like real world Nolan idea that I can get behind. The thing is, Dragon, I wish this movie had more of a thorough line with those real world Nolanisms. I just think this movie's a little bit disconnected in terms of stuff like that, in terms of like weaving the world. You know what I mean? Like I feel like Dark Knight and Batman Begins made a lot more of an attempt to like every element of it was woven in. Whereas this one, I just feel like, stuff like the bomb and stuff like the freaking how does Bruce Wayne get to Gotham, which I know we're going to address later. I don't know. It's just like, it's not as airtight.
Well, something, it's kind of occurred to me of rewatching the movie. I feel Nolan, this is purely speculative. I have no foundation for this. I imagine, again, Nolan wanted to do like a disaster movie, like a city in a state of war type movie. He wanted to do that. Of course, we saw he had the war bug with Dunkirk. But again, specifically a disaster. Like Nolan's basically a smarter version of a Roland Emmerich disaster movie is kind of what Nolan's going to aim for here. And I feel that's a project Nolan wanted to do. But he also had the Batman sequel. And I feel it was kind of like him excusing the next film he was going to make and lumping Batman into it.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if maybe that might be kind of like that, why the third act is kind of this different thing from a lot of the movie. I don't know.
Dragon, I need to step away for a couple minutes if you don't mind taking over.
All right. So, little fun fact to the folks out there coming up here, when we have this whole like hang them where they can be seen, that bit actually is lifted from Batman the Cult, where for me, not my favorite Batman story, but like a real creepy Batman story about like kind of a cult that takes over Gotham, and like Deacon Blackfire, this religious cult, really creepy. And what they do is they hang these dead bodies from lampposts and stuff. And that's kind of, I believe that's where they're pulling that idea from. At the very least, it's like coincidental and kind of cool. I mean, I'm not saying the hanging the bodies idea, I would assume. I love the ramp up here in the score, like dun, 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 and just him like throwing the rock at the screen, like I can't take this anymore. And that's the torture of Batman, knowing that this is going on. And again, folks might be wondering, like, hey, if he cracks the screen, well then Bane's plan, unless Bane like pays for like a cable repairman to come down there, what's he gonna do? I think the idea is like he knows this is going on. There's nothing to stop it from Gotham being destroyed, and eventually Bane will come back to finish the job. So regardless, I think that's the torture that and the pain that Bruce Wayne's enduring. That's the whole death of his soul going on there. And again, here's that ramping up that tension of the score. I love that Bruce he's so guilty, he's so compelled, he has to save his city by any stretch. And again, with nothing held back, which is kind of a problem there. More so, maybe not nothing held back. But again, he's kind of like a younger man. He's kind of charging into it here. He's just trying to climb out of that pit as fast as he can. This is a great shot, and I love this cut here. Oh my God. One of the best ideas in the marketing, one of the great visual symbols. I mean, it's a no-brainer, but it's a no-brainer in the best of ways. The cut that Thomas Wayne's saving him after he gets knocked out. Why do we fall, Bruce? And just that nightmare, wake up, like that's perfect. And again, the lesson of it all here, like Bruce Wayne getting his way out of Lazarus Pit, needs to learn a lesson before he can leave here. He needs to heal himself. He needs to heal the soul before he can get out of there. And basically, what the Prison Doctor expouts upon him here is the theme of Batman Begins. I love visual. Again, we're using visual cuts better in some places than others in this movie. And this is an example of the best use of a visual callback cut, or like a flashback of some kind, where we get the heroic bug of Bruce Wayne here, where again he wants his parents' legacy, the whole Gotham City will be wiped out entirely, and that's the thing, that's the torture for him. So again, it's a heroic bug. He's not just doesn't want to get out of there for his own benefit. He wants to get out of there to save Gotham, a noble pursuit. And again, in doing this, he's kind of remembering why he started the mission. So again, he's slowly getting to the place of Bruce Wayne is coming back. The initial mission of Batman Begins and Dark Knight is coming back, and we circle back to Batman Begins with the whole fear angle, like what's holding you back. You're not afraid. You need that fear to it's kind of that adrenaline pump to get you out of it. You need that desperation. He needs to tap into that criminal desperation and fear that will carry him the rest of the way. Again, he's honestly, in the grand scheme of things, he needs to tap into the fear that created Batman. The fear of when a gun is pointing in your face, when crime is staring you in the face in Gotham, like the thing that bred criminality, the thing that bred the beginnings of Batman. He needs to tap into that as sort of a rebirth, which is what the Lazarus Pit is all about. It's about the rebirth. And we see that happen here, and of course, all of it just links up so perfectly here. The young Bruce Wayne falling down the well that led to the Batcave, him climbing up this well-like prison, the pit itself, and it's great. It's delightful. Also, of course, I forgot to mention this entirely. The chant, the whole Dishi Basara, Dishi Basara, Basara, all that. Hans Zimmer had to sell Nolan on that. They had this chant in mind. Of course, Nolan's like, oh, got a choir and a chant. I don't know about that. Basically, he sold them on the whole thematicism. Like, what if it was like a ritualistic thing they did? Maybe that's why they chanted, like, rise, 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 as these guys made their attempts to climb out of here. And again, the score is so great here. And it's like, we don't have that Fire Rises music in this movie. This is the closest thing right here, the whole Fire Will Rise track, but we do have Why Do We Fall? And that's what this track is called here, where he just makes the jump like, we mix the Dishi Basara with the classic Batman theme, like Batman climbing out of there is so triumphant. It even helps the prisoners out, because it's been years and Bane's in control of prison now. He just throws the rope down there. They're all saved. They're fine. So we're back in India, and Bruce is making his way back to Gotham. Long walk. I'm kidding. Oh, by the way, Dishi Basara, real quick. Dishi Basara was, they had this fan request. Basically, Hans Zimmer put the call out. It's like, hey, everyone, record Dishi Basara and we'll put in the movie. And that's what you hear in the audio track, is all these Dishi Basaras compiled from around the globe.
All right, I'm back. So, Scarecrow.
You're just in time for Scarecrow's mega desk.
Yes. Oh, man, I bet you were in suspense. Like, oh, I hope Tiki makes it back in time.
So look at this giant desk. Seriously, it's like it's a mega desk that Crane has.
I love the. I feel like this Scarecrow cameo is a lot more satisfying than his cameo in Dark Knight.
I don't know about that because he's in the mask and everything, but this is fun too. This is great.
No, I don't care about the mask. I mean, this to me is like the culmination of what Scarecrow should be in Nolan's Dark Knight universe.
Well, yeah, this is fun because you had mock trials in No Man's Land, which. You see in No Man's Land, there's this really great moment where Two-Face put Gordon on trial and Harvey Dent was his attorney. Like he was on trial against himself for like the betrayal of Harvey Dent and stuff and all that. Basically, kind of the Harvey Dent lie, essentially, is kind of what he was on trial for. That's kind of neat. So Shriver's a goner there. Kind of set up the menace of the ice, so, walking across the ice. I love that our cops here, our GCPD cops, they're held up in the kitchen that the mob was held up in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Reads desperation. I mean, in the way that the mob.
You're right. It's very thematically kind of tying everything together. That's an interesting pull there.
Of course, it's always good.
I wouldn't have even caught that, Dragon, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, just backtrack real quick. Just with the Cillian Murphy stuff, it's always great to see Cillian Murphy. It pop up in anything really. He's just a good actor. I like that guy.
Have you
But
seen
I
Red Eye with Rachel McAdams?
no, I haven't.
That's a very underrated Cillian Murphy movie.
Did I say Cillian or I meant Killian?
Or Killian. Yeah, no,
I
you said
wanted to. Yeah, I want it to be Cillian so much, but it is Killian. That's like the bummer of like, okay, just Killian.
all right. Wow. So
Yeah.
much of a bummer, Dragon. Wow.
No, but
So bad for you.
oh, but all seriousness, change your name, darn it. No, but in all seriousness, though, I do like that he's kind of like an auctioneer of fear. Like he gets off on people being terrified about what their sensing is, and it's basically death either way.
Uh-huh.
So, by the way, just again, Foley, you cowardly little scumbag. He sends a you let your wife answer the door when the city's under occupation. Like Gordon's absolutely right.
right.
Little fun fact: now that we're in the no man's land of it all, Foley actually was a cop. They brought Foley was a character in No Man's Land who turned against Gordon in like one of the issues. So that's what they're pulling that from.
Okay.
That's kind of why he's like such a turncoat. Why he's such a little slimy, weaselly slime ball.
God.
There are a lot of Foley anger. My apologies. This is great. I love this. I love Selena Kyle saving this kid here. Again, this is No Man's Land at its finest here.
Uh-huh.
You know, like you're the good of Gotham coming out in its worst during its worst times. Good action from Anne Hathaway. Got some good kind of fight choreography going on there. Now this might be I would love to know if this is like a deep cut No Man's Land reference because there's a really fun bit in that book where Penguin demonstrated that he takes a piece of everything in Gotham, that he basically runs the trading goods in No Man's Land. So he took a bite of an apple to signify this. So I wonder if Selena had taken a bite of the apple as a reference to that.
Oh, God, Dragon. That cut, that was so deep of a cut that it cut into me, man. Oh, ouch. I feel that cut, man. That was a really, really deep cut.
I mean, again, of all the things that like, they've used to signify, like stealing in Gotham, they used an apple. That might be a pull from that book. I don't know.
Okay, to be fair, like we've used apples since, like, Aladdin used apples as a single to steal.
That's true, and you know what? When again thievery and apples, you're right. It does go hand in hand. But I'm fingers crossed. I don't know. You know.
Fingers crossed. I'm hoping for you, Dragon. I really am, man. If that gives you some more satisfaction in life, then boy howdy, you take it.
Well, now you're just making it sound sad. Now when you put it like that.
All right. I'm sorry. This movie's kind of putting me to sleep, if I'm being honest at this point, Dragon. And my big. Okay, wait, Bruce Wayne. Okay.
Yeah, go on.
How the fuck did Bruce Wayne get back to Gotham, Dragon?
You really still not?
I'm just gonna mute myself here and let you explain yourself, all right? Because it's one of those crazy, like, it's the biggest plot hole of any movie for me. It just so I can rant about it, but the only way we'll be able to get through this is if you can give a simple explanation. I just mute myself. I have the self-control to just let you talk, all right? So go.
All right, folks. There is actually an obvious explanation here. I'm surprised Tiki hasn't stumbled upon in these many years. But folks, the simple answer is he used the bat to get back into Gotham. Hence the whole autopilot reveal. That's what the reveal is. The legitimate answer is that he used the bat to get in because he fixed the autopilot and it came for him. He ran somewhere, got a signal, and he sent for the bat. That's really what the gist of that is. That's the actual how. If you want to use like fan theories and everything, like maybe my money used to be on he walked through the ice before I put that together. Like, he just used the bat to get back into Gotham. But I mean, the point is, it doesn't matter, folks. It's kind of, I know we show like the whole how Batman does stuff, like the whole like we can't necessarily get away with the whole because he's Batman. But I mean, if we're gonna get away with one, you can get away with it there because we've seen him do the impossible before. But again, if you need an answer,
can't get away with is something that's that we're gonna be building towards, but a big symbol that would have been a major waste of time and a major like if you look at it from a
the whole walking on the
what?
I'm sorry, go on.
If you look at it from a kind of like a perspective of realism, like Nolan often likes to do, how the hell is it possible? But we'll get into it.
But I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like that, are you satisfied with the bat got him back in or what?
I mean, I guess, and I understand why we didn't show it, but I wish there would have been a little bit more connecting the dots between him and the Bat. Like maybe
Does
the
make
first, like maybe we see him landing in Gotham in the Bat. You know what I mean?
again would have I don't know. I think would have spoiled it. People would have questioned the autopilot thing. Would have kind of taken away. I don't know. It's anyway. The point is, it doesn't really matter that much. It is rent. It is.
We don't care in a way.
That's what I'm saying.
I do care. I care a lot. I've spent 6 years caring.
Jeez. Anyway, so the point is, I think
you can't just write it off to a "we don't care" dragon. That's not fair on my part. See, I told you I wasn't going to be happy to please. I warned you about this.
I'm saying you have your answer. What more do you want? You want a spoiler for the movie when you're watching it the first time? Okay, that's how we got back in there. Of course, like the autopilot, you're going to be like, oh, well, I knew that was coming. I knew he was going to fake it. So
basically what you're saying is he got back in because he's Batman.
No, I'm saying got back in because of the Bat, but again, the grand scheme of it is it doesn't really matter because he's Batman. The fact of the matter, he has a cool entrance when he walks in there, and of course he has a really nice, like, charming scene with Selina. It's nice. Him giving the whole. I was a little disappointed. Like, he's kind of charming and suave when he comes back in there. Like, what does it matter?
All right, here we go, Dragon. Let's talk about the symbol on the bridge because let's just break it down. Like, how would Batman possibly do that and not get detected?
Okay, you're not gonna like this answer.
Okay. What's the answer?
I like this.
Oh God.
Well, I'm just saying, like, off the top of my head,
do you see how much military is on those bridges? Like, how the hell would he have the time to do this, Dragon?
Look, I'm not 100% on like how exactly this works, but when we saw the bat had some sort of like cloaking cover on it, so I somehow used the bat to make that bat symbol.
Oh my God! Oh Jesus Christ! Oh, ah. You're right. I'm not happy with that answer at all.
I mean,
now I'm just picturing like Batman in like an invisible plane type situation, like literally like he has like a paintbrush and he's like, gotta get the edges just right.
No, I mean, it was a quick
painted with my oil.
No, you do realize if he's in the bat, it's the simple paint gel. He puts he just sprays it on there and he's out of there quickly. It's like shh. He basically spreads out there. He uses the autopilot. And he just basically drops down to make just drops down as he makes the line towards the ice. Anyway, so this is my favorite shot in the trailer, by the way. When he emerges from darkness, when Gordon summons him with the road flares, my favorite shot in all the marketing and all the trailers. And again, I love that Batman's coming to save Gordon when he's in peril. It's like, yeah, it's nice. Even inspires that lunkhead Foley. I mean, look, again, also, even if he would manage to do it on his own without the bat, that's kind of cool that he did that. Again, he needed, I like that we have a makeshift bat sim. We saw that Gotham was in rough shape when they were turning against each other without Batman around. So this is kind of this is with a purpose. A lot of people say it's with that point. I say it is with a point. Again, to inspire Gotham, showing the Batman's back that, hey, we can turn against Bane. I don't know. Yeah, I like the fact that, again, after the bat symbol the bat signal was destroyed at the end of Dark Knight, we've reinvigorated here, which is nice. And of course, Batman's making his rounds here.
Dragon, I just feel like the finer details are starting to get to me and starting to add up. Like, this movie is solid, but I can't come around to loving it. I can't come around to saying that it's not a disappointment to me at the end of the day. And I don't know what it is, Dragon. It's just like, it's not a disappointment in the same way something like The Lost World Jurassic Park or Spider-Man 3 is a disappointment. It's a disappointment just because it's like, it's such a hard thing to top The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, and I just don't think this movie does it. But it's a really good Batman movie. So it's one of those things where it's like, because of the huge status of what came before it, I feel like this movie will perpetually live in the shadow of The Dark Knight. And that might not be fair, but it's, I think it's a legitimate thing in not necessarily film criticism, but definitely in sociology.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're kind of bleeding on final thoughts there a little early, but I don't think you're wrong. I think you're. So some stuff that's kind of been happening right now. So again, I like this whole the GCPD kind of unified under Batman, like the Batman having you kind of blasted, freed the GCPD, like you've given me an army. It's enough. That's great, of course, in making his rounds. For anyone who says there's no Batarang in this movie, he used the tranquilizer Batarangs from year one in this, so I was very happy with that. But still, the fact that we did get, for anyone who says there's no Batarangs in the third one, there are Batarangs in the third one. So yeah, of course, he's basically grooming again the whole if you're gonna fight crime, you wear a mask. There's a great little setup. He's basically preparing Blake to take his mantle, which is nice. And again, to me, this is the big charm of Batman Catwoman. Again, Tom King has really sold even more people on than. Don't get me wrong, I'm still at my heart of hearts. I'm for comics, Talia and Batman together. But I do love what's been done with that relationship, and that's the classic relationship. You can't beat Batman Catwoman. I won't lie. But I do love that what we explore here. Again, this to me is I think Nolan, he approached this to me, it wasn't really romance, but it was a really good character dynamic. That's, I think, what Nolan approached with the Batman Catwoman dynamic here, is that Batman's not giving up on her. It's like if Batman thought he understood all criminals, and Catwoman's the one who's saying, no, you don't understand all criminals. You don't understand the higher form of crime. And that's like the one thing that she can educate him in that he doesn't know about. And beyond that, I love the fact that Batman is, again, very Adam West style. He's kind of trying to rehabilitate her a little bit by basically saying he's putting faith in her. He's putting, you can do the right thing. It's possible. And of course, I talked over my favorite line in all the marketing, my favorite Batman moments in the movie, where he said, she says, you've given them everything. Of course, the trailers, it got me so misty when I was watching the trailer. I rewatched it.
Not yet.
Not everything. Not yet. I gotta tell you, that line to me, I would rewatch that trailer so many times, and I just got so emotional. I was watching it oh my god, this would be the best Batman movie ever.
And it's not, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, when you say it like that, now
it's just not.
It's
a good Batman movie, but
I mean that's fine. I'm just saying, let's just take out all the whimsy. Of course, Bane doing his famous suspenders pose.
Oh yes.
Which is great. So this scene, oh boy, this scene here. Okay, so this is 1,100 extras. Not digital, not like a digital crowd shout. It's roughly, it might be more, but from what I heard, I think the official number might have been 1,100 people. All what they did is they have this tent, basically it's like a train schedule. They had these guys run they got their coffee, they got their breakfast, they got dressed up, and of course they rehearsed the choreography, and they in a circle, and then of course they lined up on the streets, just kind of how their days went, and then getting ready for this big charge here. Which again is this is how Nolan goes big in a natural way, which I do really respect. Nolan gets the numbers behind him on this one, where he gets how do you go big without just doing
well, it's
tons
almost
and tons.
Like a predecessor to Dunkirk in that way.
Yes, exactly. It's like the building blocks of something like Dunkirk.
No, it is really just on a cinematic level, just catching this many people on screen is... I know it's simple, Dragon, and there's no computer effects in it, but I think the fact that there is no computer effects makes it magical in a way.
I read this somewhere, and I agree with it absolutely, that it's just something that, Tiki, it's amazing because it's something that's not done in Hollywood anymore. We used to do this in the big epics, in the big, the Lawrence of Arabia's, if you will, but we don't do that these days. Now we're doing it with this. Of course, again, Batman appearing from the shadows. And again, what Nolan's been doing here, he's kind of been legitimizing, again, kind of the 60s aspects of Batman in this movie here, where you have Batman in broad daylight, in costume, fighting somebody on the streets like this. He took the pow zap and whams out of it, but again, you kind of have Batman in broad daylight, which is such a rarity. But again, not only, that's just kind of a reference, is Nolan referencing the 60s a lot with this movie, because we did have that 60s reference with the mask in Dark Knight, in Dark Knight with the Joker mask. Makes you wonder. What we do have, regardless, is that Batman, again, the progression of the trilogy, Tiki, is that Batman, he started off as a myth, and then he went to being he's a guy in a costume, and now we see the symbol in place here. Well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase it. It's like he goes from being a myth to being a symbol to being anyone can be Batman, being kind of the everyman symbol. Like anyone could be just a guy in a costume. So we see him in like his most human state in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they actually shot all of that charging and all that fighting is that's in New York. So they shot everything. Gotham is in Pittsburgh, but that they shot all the Wall Street stuff and that big. Basically them charging each other in the streets of New York on Wall Street. But basically when Bane and Batman are fighting up the stairs, and they're going up the stairs, that's Pittsburgh. That's Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. And it's kind of funny. There's like this one shot where you see when Bane kicks Batman, he kicks him from New York to Pittsburgh, right there.
Oh, really?
That's kind of how that shot works, because like now they're in. And it's kind of funny too, because the poor people in Pittsburgh. All the Pittsburgh stuff was shot in the summer, and all these people dressing like these long coats and these warm coats.
Yeah.
So those stadiums, so like there was real snow in New York, Tiki. When they're charging each other, that's real snow. But now they have to manufacture snow during this whole fight.
Gotcha. That's an entirely different environment. Yeah.
And of course, the gauntlet saves the day again.
Yep.
Yeah. Love it. Justifying Nolan. If Nolan's done anything, Tiki, it's justifying those freaking gauntlets.
Right.
Now, I believe this is the stunt double for Batman, Buster Reeves. But I love this shot here. Bane's like punching him so rapidly, he basically dents the pillar, and that's so great. And again, now he's putting Bane in so much pain, but basically the morphine's been killed off with the mask here, so now he's just like in so much agony during the fight, distracted. And again, that's how you put Batman and Bane on even footing after all of that now. Because again, now they're both in kind of a pained, weakened condition.
Okay, and unfortunately from this scene on, the movie kind of fucking falls apart.
All right, well, let's be analytical here. Let's be fair. So, okay, let's talk about the Bat voice here. So I'll defend the Bat voice with the exception of this moment here.
Where's the trigger?
No. Here's the thing. Where's the trigger? Here's the line that tears it for me. The whole, you would never give it to an ordinary citizen.
Oh, God.
So you learn less is more with the Bat. You can get away with the Bat voice, but less is more, folks. You can't do a lot of dialogue with the Bat voice. Unless you have the bases loaded with emotion, unless it's like a big scene, like the whole, like, we decided to act, Harvey. You can get away with that. But you can't get away with the whole, you'll never give it away to an ordinary. You can't yell and do that at the same time. Right. Again, I love the link up here right before things start to go to heck here. The whole like this whole like Bane just, but I broke you. Like just the tension, like the big like build of like, oh my God, Batman did, like Batman came back from all of that, like the whole like the child of Ra's al Ghul. But then we take a turn. So
all right.
Look,
let's talk. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous, and the look on Bale's face is ridiculous, and this is where the movie just really loses it for me, Dragon. I tried to defend this movie, but it's just like everything now, it's just ridiculous. It's like it's plot contrivances and just disappointment and anticlimax.
Okay, well, first, let's break this down a little bit here. So, one, I love that Gordon has a proactive role in saving the day here. I love that we keep doing that in all the movies. Secondly, getting back to this, so the reveal itself, again, is not a bad idea. But again, not caring about Miranda, that's the mistake that kills it. See, that's what cripples. This is kind of what, like, using an example here. Bear in mind, this came out before this movie.
I remember being so bored in the movie theater by the time that we got around to this, because I was like, yes, I know. God damn it, I know.
See, when I saw the movie, I was shocked by this in theater because, again, like just the comic fan in me was like, "Oh my God, Talia al Ghul, they did it!" And there was like a reveal like they did with Raish and Batman Begins. Oh my God, it's so cool! Again, I was instinctually, it was the first watch. It was the most positive watch. But then, of course, my problem is this is in the movie, and I'll agree with you. This, to me, if I had to nail down the problems of Dark Knight Rises to one moment, it would be this, but not for the obvious reasons. My problem is that it all hinges. This is the moment in the whole movie that progressively get you looking at the problems of the movie. At least the moment where you think, like, does that make sense? Because it makes you re-explore the movie. and then you see, okay, there's some faults here and there.
Yeah, it kind of crumbles under its own foundation, unfortunately.
Because, and I feel this is kind of like it's like a Mandarin. I'm going to address this delicately here. Follow me on this. Is that, bear in mind, this came out before Iron Man 3, but this was kind of like a proto-Mandarin reveal. This was sort of like, with a very key difference. The very key difference is this. This raises questions where the Mandarin thing is all explained to you. This raises, again, the fact that we don't have answers to these questions, like what exactly is Talia's motivation? Why is she doing these things? Mandarin, we have all of it there, and we understand that. It's like, okay, this makes sense, and this, again, that's, so the reveal itself is not the problem. It's the fact that we now question, like, we're missing information now retroactively. See, like, the logic I have that make this work at any sense of the word, and again, there's nothing disproving this, but there's nothing proving it at the same time, so it's kind of like it defeats itself here. But my logic is that, this prison, again, like Santa Prisca, like, is like a corrupt prison. Therefore, I imagine Bane himself, like, he never, I never escaped. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. That's kind of a clue. I imagine that, for all we know, we could have had the Bane origin that, his like mothers had bored children living out the senses of their husbands. Again, it's a stretch, but I don't put a lot of stock in it. But for all I know, that's why Bane protected her in the prison. And the gist of it is, and the thing that makes me not mad that we basically gave Bane's origin to Talia is that, again, there's a little bit of room that maybe a similar thing happened. But regardless, in the Bane comics, Tiki, Bane had protectors in the prison, so we made Bane retroactively protect her while doing the Bane origin flawlessly, and making Bane, importantly here, all of this, Bane still works as a symbol of what Batman was, but to Talia. So again, Bane still works as a character because he's a symbol of what Talia's mission is all about. Like Batman is a symbol.
You are right. He's kind of like a way, way, way more complex and intimidating and well-written version of the Mandarin. That's
in a way, yeah.
Yeah, because he is kind of like the showman. He's the guy. He's the.
He's communicating her ideas. Absolutely.
Right.
So again, that's the thing. I'm still missing a little bit of information.
I've never really looked at it that way, Dragon. That's an interesting point. I gotta say.
At the end of the day, it's a mixed bag. But I think there's like a silver lining there somewhere.
Because my whole thing is that I was just disappointed that Bane turned into a henchman by the end of it.
But again, it's less henchman, more kind of an emissary of her beliefs. A showman, if you will, as you put it. Yes. Of course, Gordon saved the day, and I love that. I do like that protector animal because it is representative. Like Bane had like a few kind souls in the prison that looked. There were 3 protectors that he had, and we kind of do that here with her. Which again, Cody Art is good casting for Talia, and I like how she's dressed. She's dressed kind of like Talia, and again that reveal. But again, the thing that makes me grind to a halt and question things is the fact that I hated my father, yet I'm completing his work. And the idea that only logic I can stem from all this, Tiki, is that Talia is. This is a suicide mission. This whole thing, like the idea is she's just using the League of Shadows to destroy Gotham. Like they're not going to do anything after this. Tiki. The whole idea is like they're going to blow up with them to fulfill her father's legacy as like a whole. I'm going to honor my father
in a that much, yeah.
I do like thematically though with that it's kind of like how Bruce is honoring his parents, she's honoring her parents with that final action, and Gotham is kind of the center stage for all that. This is really great. By the way, I love that line where. Bane is like, a moment passes, people have problems with it. I love the whole, we both know I have to kill you. It's kind of a fourth wall thing, like you and I hate each other. I want to kill you. I don't care. I'm just going to kill you. Of course, I just love that sigh of relief and that Catwoman theme. I don't know if I mentioned this. I love Catwoman's theme in this movie. The whole da-da-da.
Oh, God. Okay, here we go. Unpopular opinion. I really don't like the way Bane goes out.
I
think it's way too abrupt. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that bothers me about it, is that they don't linger on it at all.
You're right about that. I agree with you there. I will say this: what I do like about it, though, the part that I like about it, I like that just kind of that, again, like Batman looks like everyone's going to this movie wondering how is Batman going to die. And like the shotgun's next to his head. Now, I'm not saying I'm expecting him to die in this moment, but you gotta imagine that you had to appreciate that in the moment. There was like, oh my God, it's like it's a moment of peril, then big explosion. Like, oh my God, did he get shot? And of course, like no, Bane just got blown halfway across the room, and Selina kind of saved him at the last second. It's kind of a nice, again, the faith that he put in Catwoman is paid off, and that was really nice.
Uh-huh.
But you're right. It's a disservice to Bane, but it's kind of like it was a trade-off, most certainly. It's a big
I
trade-off.
guess so. I guess so. Okay, all this bad stuff is fucking epic, though.
And
It's by
again,
far
Teak,
the best part of the best part of the finale.
I mean, aside from the parts where he's like dodging missiles, Tiki, all of that bat is practical. It's
Oh,
just
I
they
know,
paint.
I know, and it blows my mind, honestly.
You know what's really cool? I mean, if you can see it, hopefully, again, you might have to rewatch it to really see it. But oh, by the way, we have the cop from Dexter. We have Desmond Harrington as the police officer who blows the bridge. You know, Quinn.
Oh man,
But yeah, in the bat, if you any glimpses you see of Batman in the cockpit, that's an animatronic Batman.
really?
Yes, like all the aside from like when you're in the cockpit with Batman, obviously that's Christian Bale. But in all those wide shots, when you see Batman, that's animatronic Batman,
Oh man, that's great. That's
and it's a
great.
good animatronic. I've seen what it looks like; it's really good looking too.
Huh.
Cool. And of course, the idea of this whole bridge subplot with Blake is that one, he's trying. I love that Batman trusted him again. He's trusting with the mission of saving children, with saving as many people as he can, lead an exodus again, like giving him the leadership position. It's really nice. So this whole scene is really dangerous, by the way. Like there was a lot of legitimate danger that the stunt woman on Catwoman were in staging the scene, like going behind the tumblers and everything.
Uh-huh.
Because again, they're actually blowing up tumblers and everything during the scene. Which, by the way, the tumblers were not difficult, but the problem was they had to redesign with all these extra weapons and everything. So they had to take the original tumbler designs and rework them from scratch. So they were difficult to get all these missile launchers and everything on them. Because the design is like it's like
Again, the missiles and the fire and everything is something that they very easily could have CG'd. You know, these don't have to be real missiles, Dragon. They really don't.
well, again, the missiles aren't real, but like the ones that are like everything on the ground's real, obviously.
Okay, but I'm just yeah, that's true. But I'm just saying, like like it goes the extra mile. You know, all
It
the
sells you
little
on it.
details. Yeah,
Absolutely, it sells
yeah.
you on it. Like again, you buy because they sold you like on that 90%. And it's like, and again, a lot of this again, even when it's in the air, it's like being dragged by helicopter.
Uh-huh.
So by the way, so they broke another IMAX camera on this movie with Catwoman here. She
Oh,
another 25, sorry, another $250,000. They were doing a shower and they rehearsed this on like a tarmac. I think they rehearsed this on like a runway. This whole like chase on the grounds with the tumblers and everything. So again, they rehearsed the heck out of this in Pittsburgh, and it's on the streets of Pittsburgh, folks. What you see is what you get. I mean, to be like a broken record with that, but it's really impressive. Now, I'll admit, this is all cool, but I mean, it does it's a bit of spinning our wheels here, you know.
it
The
is a
cool,
little bit.
cool thing is that this actually does take place within 11 minutes. So that's the really, at the end of the day, that's the really cool factor about the scene. We have 11
It's
minutes
kind of
on the
like the
bomb.
Christopher Nolan, like, hey, let me play with time.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the autopilot Dragon, and how do you feel? Like, do you think Bruce like ejects himself?
Well, we're
Like,
jumping ahead a little bit, but
well, I know, but I feel like that's gonna cause a lot of conversation, so I'm just kind of getting.
okay. Well, this will bleed into my moment here, but the big thing I really want to talk about, so I might as well. Okay. By the way, this truck actually falls like this again, like Dark Knight, and that truck flipping over. This truck actually crashes in IMAX. Of course, I love Gordon. I assume Gordon did like the elevator thing. He jumped at the last second. He's fine. Okay, so I'll build to the autopilot thing. I gotta talk about this. This all leads into it here. So this is my favorite.
Yes, you're right. We do have to talk about this scene for sure.
Well, they're getting to it now, I guess, but I just might as well get my feet on the ground here. So, one, yeah, it's a disappointing death for Talia al Ghul, especially with who that character is. It's a very unflattering death, and I've heard from the creator of Talia al Ghul, he is not thrilled with this scene. Denny O'Neil is not thrilled with this scene. The guy who created Ra's al Ghul and Talia, he's not happy with it.
I'm sure.
So, and of course, basically when I saw her die in the movie, it was like, well, so much for Damian Wayne, so much for the son that they had together. And of course, that would have justified that love scene too, by the way. But nope. See, that's initially what I thought that love scene was cementing. That sense, anyway.
Right, yeah.
So basically, what we're building up to here, folks, is my favorite scene in the whole movie, and I would wager to say, honestly, this to me is why I have one of the big reasons I could easily talk away any of the problems I have with the movie, because they get the ending so right from this point to the end for me with so many things. Specifically, my favorite scene in the movie here. So after the whole coming up here, the classic kind of Batman Catwoman kiss that we kind of snuck in there. Like, oh, ain't that cute? We got my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes in the whole trilogy. Again, aside from the ending of Batman Begins, this scene got me the most emotional I've been watching any of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Honestly, ever watching Christopher Nolan movie.
Oh.
Was the goodbye between Batman and Gordon. I just love that he starts. Forgive me if I get get misty here,
No,
folks.
go ahead.
Forgive me.
Go ahead. This is your moment, dude.
I love that. Well, the first thing out of Gordon's mouth is, "I never cared who you were." That's that dynamic there, and then basically we have the perfect philosophy here. Like Batman's last, like the best thank you that Batman gives Gordon here, because Gordon's like, you don't have to thank me. The thank you that Batman gives Gordon in his last moments here is, a hero can be anyone, even someone who puts a coat around a young boy's shoulders to show him the world hadn't ended. That's the form. And that cut gets me every time. We cut to him putting the coat over the boy's shoulders because that was the formation of Batman as a symbol. That's where he got the idea of like how you could be a symbol of comfort to somebody. And again, like the idea of like what a symbol means and how a hero can be anybody, even someone again. Jim Gordon was a Batman without all the training. It's like it signifies that I just think it's so beautiful, and just that I can't say enough. I can't say enough nice things about that. It also harkens back to the very beginning of Batman as a character. Tiki was Detective Comics number 27. It started off with Jim Gordon talking with Bruce Wayne, not knowing that he was Batman. That's how the whole thing started. And we have a moment where he tells him, he says, Bruce Wayne, like he basically gives him the clue, like, you're a detective, you can solve this. It's like you could have solved it any time. I'm going to tell it to you now because it's the last moments here. Like you decide if people need to know it or not. And again, basically, that's what he's saying there for later on, where it's like, shouldn't the people know who saved them? Basically, what he's expositing to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's like, no, they don't need to know who saved him because it was the Batman. That's basically that motivates that line that he has to Blake later on, like, because Batman gave him that perfect word of wisdom that a hero can be anybody. And that's also a little inkling of like, hey, that and the bat signal being repaired later on is like, hey, if I'm not around, Batman might endure. It's him putting the seed of like, I'm going to fake my death.
All right, Dragon. Autopilot talk, though. Seriously.
Autopilot. Because Tiki, what I'm saying, the umbrella of what I'm saying with all of this is that they do it so. Everything is so worth it in the end, Tiki. It doesn't. The autopilot.
Don't say it doesn't matter. Don't say you don't care.
Okay, what specifically?
It's a plot hole.
What specifically bothers you about it?
How does he get out?
Who cares? Tiki, if they can.
You can't just write it out like that, Dragon. Okay. No, I refuse. I refuse that right off. No.
Tiki,
no.
let me put it to you this way: in the entire trilogy, again, under the understanding that we know that the Bat gets him back into Gotham, but on the entire trilogy, if we could give him one moment of because he's Batman, just one moment, that's the moment that they earned it. The very last minute they earned the whole because he's Batman moment. Wouldn't you give him that? Even if you don't. Okay, fine. Even if you don't.
No, I mean, when you put it like that, I mean, begrudgingly, I'll have to be like, all right.
Because here's the thing, even if you don't, you do have he plays with the editing of like he's going towards the thing, and like, we're playing with time. It gets no one playing with time. Like we're seeing Batman like contemplating like he's faking his death here, and then we just cut to again the big explosion there. So again, it's like we don't know exactly how time's in fullness. He got out of there at some point. Either way, I think it's covered. That is a non-issue for me.
All right, fair enough.
So, by the way, I didn't know about this. When they shot this, they actually had Christian Bale on set. Again, Nolan keeping all the secrecy and everything. Christian Bale was on set during this.
Oh dear God! Hold on.
What?
Alfred, we have to talk about this.
All right.
I'm sorry. It's just oh my God. This might be the most emotionally powerful scene of the whole franchise.
Love that he's apologizing to Thomas and Martha Wayne right now.
I failed you. You trusted me, and I failed you.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's one of those heartbreaking moments for Alfred. Just the idea Alfred is like Alfred outliving Bruce Wayne is a horrible fate for Alfred Pennyworth. Of course, you saw Blake throw his badge over the river, and of course now this bit here again gets me misty with Gordon here. Like all these last bits of Gordon just do it for me so much. Where he says they know. It was the Batman. And again, that's Gordon taking what Batman told him, like anyone can be a hero, and that's all he needs to know. Like the symbol will endure. That's all that mattered. their whole partnership and what they did to fix Gotham, to save Gotham. Now, real quick, when they were doing that funeral scene, they CG'd over the Bruce Wayne on the headstone. It said Miranda Tate, and Bruce Wayne was present during that scene. That's
Oh,
what they did
really?
to kind of.
Okay.
That's what they did to fake out people who were like, hiding the script pages and everything. Because Nolan just, when they shot the ending, Nolan just told the actors what was on the page. Like there were no script pages printed for the ending.
Nice, nice.
So, again, at the end of the day, folks, we're going, I guess, fitting into my grand thesis. I guess basically this to the end here is like it hits all the right beats so perfectly. Again, this from Batman saying his goodbyes to the end here, it hits everything. This to be retroactive, it's like it makes up for any logical. It's the emotion before the logic, and I think that does the job well. So we have all these last little bows that are tied up really well here. Like we have the Thomas and Martha Wayne Foundation.
That was a nice touch from Batman Begins. I appreciated that.
And of course, we worked it in through Blake, who justified this. And of course, with the Robin thing, if he said Terry McGinnis, people would have been fine with it. If I don't know. I mean, look, the Robin thing. It's just briefly. It's a cute little reference, but I don't look. I can live with it, but I'll admit, yeah, it was just kind of like they worked that in there at the last minute. It sounds like a push. Sounds like a studio push. I'll admit.
Oh.
But it does. It's like if you're gonna give a nod to Robin at all, it's like hey, you can use Robin as a first name. It's like yeah, you never really think of that sort of things. I don't know.
Why not?
By the way, because I completely forgot to mention the pearls. I like that Nolan found a way of working the pearls into the story, like the whole Catwoman and the pearls.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. What do you think of the idea that Alfred is just imagining seeing Bruce?
Well, I don't subscribe to that, and I heard that many people, like even Michael Caine, doesn't subscribe to that. At least somebody I forget if it was Michael Caine or Christian Bale, someone doesn't subscribe to that as well. And I think it's actually happening.
All right, fair enough.
Because real quick,
I think it gives the film a little bit more ambiguity if you go that direction, which I appreciate.
I don't mind as like an open idea, but I don't subscribe to it. I hear exactly what you're saying with that. It's a cool idea.
Basically, it doesn't really matter if, like, as long as Alfred believes it. You know what I mean? Like that's Alfred is really the only person. Like as long as Alfred walks away knowing that Bruce is okay.
Look at that smile there. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yes.
It's just the moment, Tiki. It's the fact that Batman, one of the last things he did, again in creating that the fiery bat. So one of the great things that he did though was that he built the bat signal for the next generation of Batman, for Blake to be Batman for Jim Gordon. Basically, he reconstructed the symbol that was destroyed at the end of Dark Knight's Batman subscribing to hope again, and he rebuilt it. And it's just such a sweet notion. Like he's ushering in the next generation, that the next person is going to take up the mantle. Again, we have all these excellent cuts that were happening simultaneously, so well put together, so well edited, and in the movies. I love that Alfred, at the end of the day, Alfred with that, then he's happy for him. Alfred not being guilty of I failed the wins. He hasn't. Basically, it's giving Alfred peace of mind. This is the reason I like to think that actually happens. That Alfred in his last moments here, he sees that he's happy for Bruce. Bruce finally, after all that he's went through, he gets to live. Batman did his job. Batman is going to endure as a symbol. Batman finally, after all these movies, after everything he went through in the Dark Knight, he found a way to have his cake and eat it too. Batman can endure as a symbol in Gotham. Bruce Wayne can leave Gotham and start a life, fall in love, start a life somewhere. He's reborn after that Lazarus pit. He's living the life that his parents wanted for him, and Alfred is happy for him because of that. Alfred has done his job, and that he got that kid through the worst period of his life. And John Blake is rising to the occasion of the mantle of Batman to keep it going. It's a perfect happy ending for Batman. I love it.
All right. Yeah, I hear you, Dragon. I hear you. It's just unfortunate that I don't share the same level of enthusiasm about this movie that you do. I'm really sorry about that. I really am. I'm kind of that's the thing. That's why I haven't been talking too much in this podcast, is because I'm happy for you that it achieves so much, but for me, it really is just kind of the bottom tier of the Nolan trilogy, and it's a good movie, but the other two are great movies. And I can't call this movie great, Dragon. I really can't. At the end of the day, there's too much foundationally wrong with it, and at the end of the day, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight
set a foundation and set this precedent that I just don't think Dark Knight Rises lives up to. But I will say that there is a lot of stuff that Dark Knight Rises does right. And this is, by the way, just kind of bleeding into my final thoughts so we can get this over with quickly. I assume we don't want to talk through 10 minutes of credits.
Certainly.
Okay, so Dark Knight Rises, of course, we get a lot of stuff right. We have, as Dragon said, the trio of stories with No Man's Land, with Nightfall, and with Dark Knight Returns. Really blends into each other quite well. Bane is definitely a highlight. Like every scene that Bane's in is almost iconic in a way. In some ways, Bane is almost strangely on the same level as Heath Ledger's Joker, which I think is a big accomplishment unto itself. I think everyone involved in the from the planning stages to the voice to the look of that character should really be proud, because he's a cinematic accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, Dragon, it's the finer details of this movie that really drag it down for me. It's just kind of that, as we said, sort of like, well, I do care about how Batman got out of the batter. I do care about how about how he got back to Gotham. And it's stuff like that where it's like I'm not really willing to do the we don't care thing as enthusiastically as you do, Dragon.
Well, again, Tiki, we have an answer for one of those. The other one, that's the we don't care.
All right. But at the end of the day, it's a really good movie. I do feel like the timing was awful for this movie, because this movie, like, the Avengers basically curb stomped this movie and was like, no, the dark and gritty era of superhero movies is over. This is how you do it. So culturally speaking, Dragon, and kind of getting back to the point I made a little too prematurely, like, on a sociological level, I feel like this movie's always going to be in the shadow of the Dark Knight. It really is, like, it's fated to that. But I do give it more credit than I think a lot of people do in terms of the Bane stuff. The Bane stuff alone, outside of outside of kind of the confusing and muddled reveal of it all, just generally speaking, just his bravado, his presence, his voice, it's all fantastic, and it all does lead to some very, very captivating cinematic scenes. But the movie itself is just it's good, it's just not great. And so at the end of the day, Dragon, I'm left with this kind of watch of an experience where I definitely watch it for the highlights. And yeah, the Gordon stuff is great, but that's more up your alley because, you're more of a Gordon guy. And like I said, I can kind of live vicariously through you. It's not that I don't like Gordon. I'm just saying, like, to me, it doesn't save the whole movie. That's what I'm saying. To me,
well, look, it's not just, I think the ending's also, on the whole, I think it's really well kind of.
Sure.
I'm saying the Gordon stuff for me is the Gordon's the cherry on top, but I think the rest of it's still pretty solid. Anyway, keep going.
No, I think that's about it, Dragon. I think it's a solid film, elevated by an incredible villain. But unfortunately, The Dark Knight is an incredible film, elevated by a legendary villain. So, it's just not in the same kind of league.
Would I be at all correct in maybe kind of interpreting that you had more positives with the movie than you expected to rewatching it?
Yeah. That is correct, Dragon, especially in the first half. I will say most of my problems in the second half are still pretty prevalent.
Right. Where would you call the halfway point? Just out of curiosity.
Ooh, I would call the halfway point basically anything after the back break.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So for me, first I want to share one last fact before I get into my final thoughts real quick. I think it's so beautiful. I heard this where it goes. We mentioned Dark Knight. David Goyer had this. David Goyer had the moment where he said, "This is the best movie ever." With The Dark Knight, it's the best movie my name's ever been on. With this movie, I just want to call into question something that's been around since Batman Begins. That I think it's so sweet that Christopher Nolan's relationship with Batman started when during his brother's 13th birthday, Jonathan Nolan's 13th birthday, and the whole thing gets started because one brother gets another brother Batman Year One and Dark Knight Returns for his birthday. as like his introduction into Batman. I mean, tell me that's not like that. That's a great story right there, you know.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So I'm just saying, I think it's so sweet, and like all of this because of that moment, that singular moment. It all started with that, like sharing the best of Batman stories. And Nolan, in his career, he retold those stories in some of the best cinematic interpretations of Batman, like one of the strongest Batman trilogies
It's
you've ever
almost like the
seen.
Christopher Nolan version of the famous Pixar lunch.
Yes, actually, yeah, it is. Many people, of course, we always kind of liken Nolan to Pixar anyway. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So look, my final thoughts are this. Look, in a nutshell,
Make it quick, Dragon. I'm
sure,
I'm
sure, sure.
I'm really falling asleep here, and it's not because of the movie. It's just because it's been a long time in front of the microphone.
Folks, put it simply, look, movie's a little rocky in the logic department in a few spots, sure. And look, an argument can be made, um, but look, an argument can be made for honestly, an argument, as we could maybe have demonstrated in a few points here, an argument can be made for anything in the movie. You can always make an argument for anything. But what's the point? Is what I'm getting at the end of the day here. What's the point of making a lot of these arguments? So, yeah, you can make them all the live long day and maybe try to sell someone on it. You could, but what's really the point? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest with you. Talia hurts the greater whole, but it doesn't kill the movie. You know, the movie's got great highs. The ending, to me, I think overwrites a lot of overwrites a lot of qualms with the movie. With that perfect kind of, it hits the perfect emotional last notes, which again makes the grander experience more fulfilling. Again, Dark Knight Rises is a testament to. I think the lesson we should take away from Dark Knight Rises, in ramping up where we are with these movies. Dark Knight Rises as a film, I think, is a cautionary film. It's a cautionary film and a testament to the fact that maybe at times that we overanalyze and we overhype movies.
I could see
Sometimes.
that. I could see that.
And if we're not careful, that can wreck our enjoyment of these films as a whole. I think it's like a cautionary lesson with The Dark Knight Rises that we took Nolan, we somewhat pressured him into doing another one, and we took like The Dark Knight times 20 in terms of our level of hype for this movie.
Right,
And I
right.
think that's a dangerous thing. We should always, folks, should take the experience. I think you should take what you like about these movies, but again, don't put it under a microscope. And because if you're picking all these holes against it, I think you're gonna lose some of that enjoyment, some of that magic with the movie. No one's got creating that cinematic magic and just kind of that being transported. And at the end of the day, it boils down to this, folks. Very simply, I saw a Batman. I, I saw sorry, I saw Batman I care about save Gotham and inspire a lot of people in the progress. And to me, that's a good Batman movie, in my opinion. That's a good Batman movie.
Well said, Dragon. Well said. All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for joining us on this endeavor through the Dark Knight trilogy. Dragon, I assume Demona B's been with us.
And Nate Productions.
Nate Productions. Awesome, awesome.
Check out his stuff, folks. He's got some he's got some Gotham High stuff on the horizon. I'm sure he's gonna like that little shout out there. Gotham High was well. I won't bore you with the details. Check it out, folks, on your own. You'll like it.
Nice. All right, Dragon. See you. Thanks for joining me, and see you guys later. Yeah.
Fire rises.
What a lovely, lovely voice.